And it's absolute gold guaranteed this time with Type 40 Live, the live stream Doctor Who magazine show on Rumble, X, YouTube, and Facebook, covering all things Doctor Who from right the way back then to the right here and the right now, all in front of a live chat full of fellow friends, fans, and companions, just like you. And heads up, if we can prize you away from your Blu-ray box set, that is, of course, the collection is out. The latest edition is nestled next to your Blu-ray player. Find out. We're roaring back to 1975 to give season 13 itself the once-over and those special features, bells and whistles too. Type 40 Live. And we're better than an authentic 1975 TARDIS console room, which is looking very spick, off to a flying start. Very spack and spacious is what I was going to say. But I think it could be because the crew have gone home, the scene shifters and the techs and all those people, and this may have been snapped when people thought that nobody was going to be around. What do you think? It's all very, very clean. No footprints on that floor. We'll see what we can do about that, because they've got a lot of people to bring on and lots of opinions, I suspect, to be aired, as always, here at Type 40 Live with me, Dan Hadley, Birmingham's king of the geeks. We'll find out who you are in a moment or two, and then we'll get stuck into it when we'll flip through those glass trays with all those Blu-rays in and see what you've got to say about it all. It's certainly got everybody talking in the last 3 or 4 days. We're not going to gloss over any of that either. But generally speaking, we're in the party mood as we've brought home 8 discs of solid Doctor Who gold. Let us know what you think. There's a lot of popular received wisdom, shall we say, when it comes to Doctor Who, isn't it? Its canon and its history. So all opinions are generally welcome, but I know for a fact this is one that the majority of people have been waiting for, and that definitely includes Mr. Simon Horton.
Hold on, can you hear me now? There we go. I forgot to turn my mic on. So it's going well, isn't it, Dan? It's going really well tonight. We're on top form tonight.
I've tripped over my own tongue at least 3 times.
You went immediately to season 17, Tom. Tom from Destiny of the Daleks, that famous moment where he says "spack off" to the Daleks.
I'm still never really sure what that means. Yes, I meant to say spick and spacious, which it just popped in my head and then came out in the wrong order. You know?
Yeah, I think you're definitely channeling your Tom Baker there from Destiny of the Daleks.
Was that an ad lib, and do you think there were many ad libs in season 13, or was he still being a good boy then?
I think he stumbled over his words in exactly the same way as you did. But I love this console room. This I'm guessing this shot is probably taken from Planet of Evil. It might be Pyramids of Mars, but it looks Planet of Evil to me, this one. So yeah, I just love this console room. Oh, those roundels. Happy days.
Miss it more and more as time goes on. And the beauty of it is that there is, even though there's no scanner and no furniture, no objet d'art, it does mean that there's plenty of room for the likes of Gary Akers, the retro doc.
Hello. You know what? I actually think that my personal headcanon is that spack off is Gallifreyan for you know what.
Maybe you're right.
I'm going with that.
I like it.
A little bit like frack from Battlestar Galactica.
There you go. Yes, and I agree with you, Simon. The very sight of roundels just kind of
you just go a bit dewy-eyed, don't you, Gary?
Yeah, it brings like peace and happiness.
Definitely in my happy place. If I can see roundels, I'm in my happy place.
That's right.
So I mean, in that picture, it looks very, very underlit. But when the episodes are actually on, it's all sort of gently lit. It's got that sort of glow about it. And there's this solemn figure of the 4th Doctor stood as if he's waiting for something, I always think maybe he was waiting for us.
He walks in eternity.
Yeah, indeed he does. Indeed he does. I think really, I mean, what I think the thing is with season 13 in particular, and this shot just exemplifies it really, is Tom was at his sort of most alien, I think, and his most peculiar. He hadn't gone all comical at this point, had he? He was somber, wasn't he, Tom, at this point?
Yeah, you know, this is the story that for me is kind of like the shift into a new phase of Doctor Who, because my favorite Fourth Doctor coat is the original, the maroon with the
okay,
and which this was the first story without it. I mean,
yeah,
he wore it all continuously through Planet of
correct.
It was like one connected narrative though, but this is a different Doctor from the first.
It's a darker Doctor, isn't it, in many ways?
Darker Doctors, darker. You know, when I look at the Tom Baker incarnation of the character in particular, I see so many different sides to him, and you wonder what's on his mind all the time, don't you? It's the strangest thing, and everybody's got a different take too, and a different favourite Fourth Doctor outfit. I know that Luke Walters, for example, has the scarf, but I think it's the season 13 scarf, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, my missus knitted it for me. Bless her.
Really?
Yeah, she overshot it, but I think she did. She went to do 18 foot, but she did 24 foot. So she knitted a 24-foot Tom Baker scarf for me. Bless her.
Wait, Luke, we need photos of this. We've never seen you. I've never seen you in this.
Oh no, he's worn it several times.
Yeah, man. It's even in Hooligans in every episode ever. Wherever
Of
we can fit it in,
course.
it's there. It's there. And hey, season 13 is the last season before 2024 that Sutek is not on top of the TARDIS. So that's
bonus.
Yeah.
Yes.
Even better.
Year on out, he's there. Oh, I'm rough.
Have you been this week?
Rough as I'm coming down with something, so I'm rough as anything. So it's good about now, isn't it? It's good about the weather's changing.
Don't get too close to the camera. We don't want to catch it, Luke.
Catch a computer virus. We'll
take your mind off it for a couple of hours, the three of us, and definitely, I think that Charlotte Shields, she'll be ready as well.
Hello, everybody. I don't know what to respond to that. Oh no, it's also definitely going round. I work at like it's basically a hospital when it comes to catching stuff. So half my staff, like the people I work with, are just down with colds at the moment.
It's that time of year.
Before you came on, then you see, this is how I'm getting better. Little bits and little ways every time. I thought of something in my head, and then I was aware that if it came out, it would come out. It might sound a little smutty, so I stopped it. And I'm gradually getting there.
You're learning. That's good, Dan.
By the end of the year, I'm coming on in leaps and bounds, and finally, with a leap and a bound, to complete our panel this time, starry-eyed girl Sarah Graham.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, gosh, we're not used to this, Charlotte, are we?
No, we're not.
a normal introduction. Wow, you must be under the weather.
I haven't mentioned anybody's underpants or anything of that nature.
No double entendres.
No, I'm clearly unwell.
Yes, but well, the night is still young. We shall see.
Are you thinking to be a good boy for Christmas? Is that what you're thinking, Dan?
Yeah.
It's either too early or too late.
It's too late for that.
To have a New Year resolution. It's too late in life. I think that's good to see you, Sarah. How are you?
Yeah. I'm good, thank you. Yeah, we have officially finished for the half-term holiday. So I've even got a little glass of wine to celebrate.
Oh.
So we'll drink to the Blu-ray.
Massive when you lifted it up to the screen.
It's not that big.
She actually has 4 of those just out of camera range.
A whole bottle.
All lined up.
It's close enough. It's close enough to the watershed. I mean, it's too late to be kids' TV. That would have finished hours and hours ago. Certainly in 1975, when this was the continuity globe on the BBC.
Oh, that makes me go all dewy-eyed as well.
I don't quite remember this one. I remember the one.
Oh, shut up, Dan. You
afterwards.
make me feel old again.
But yeah, plenty of us in the Doctor Who fandom weren't even thought of when the 26 episodes of season 13 were airing, were they? They started in the autumn of 1975, and strangely enough, they are a set of episodes that probably endure more than most in the whole canon, really. And so to mark their arrival on Blu-ray, Type 40 Live is heading back down Tom's tunnel. There we go.
There we go.
We got one in the end. Back down
Bada
Tom's
bing.
tunnel to throw open the double doors and revisit all 6 stories and check out this long-awaited new release. To get us into the groove, though, and because I don't want to keep him waiting too long, he can get a bit grumpy, can't he? But to get into the groove, we're going to jump in the Ford Cortina, which was the car of the year, 1975.
Of course it was. Yeah, I remember them. And funnily enough, I'm just rewatching, because it's autumn and it's spooky season. I'm just rewatching the Omega Factor from 1978. And I know we've mentioned this many times on the show, and I keep on saying, if you haven't watched the Omega Factor, go out and get the DVD and watch it. But the reason I mention that is because, of course, there are plenty of Ford Cortinas. Most of them are beige. You won't be surprised to find out, or brown.
Oh, I've let you down on the beige. Well, I have with the car. But is this suitable? This is beige. This is
That's
beige-ish. Isn't it very 1975? I thought, we'd lower ourselves back into 1975 and take in some of the other sights and the sounds. So some of the younger ones, this may be like double Dutch to you, but I'm sure you'll pick it up. The big shows that debuted in the autumn of 1975 on the BBC were Bod.
Oh, Bod. Now, right. Who can name all the characters? That's Farmer Barleymow, Aunt Flo.
Aunt Flo.
What was the PC called? And was it Postman Pete? Something like that. And I wanted somebody, please, in the chat, remind me what the name of the PC wasn't. PC Plod. Surely it wasn't PC Plod.
Well, I don't like how he's sort of where his hands are. But no, I can't. I remember Aunt Flo, and that was about it. But obviously, a legendary TV show for kids. They only made 13 of these, Luke, but they showed them over and over and over again. So like 3 or 4 times a year. And then on the right-hand side, that's the original incarnation of Poldark, the BBC's adaptation of the Winston Graham novels, which was a massive hit back in 1975 and 1976. I think they only made the 2 seasons, Gary, and they recently remade it, and it was a hit all over again. So their trend for going back to the same old IPs, it's not just exclusive to Doctor Who.
When I first looked at that picture, I thought that was William Shatner.
It does look a bit like William Shatner.
I had to kind of look at it and see that it wasn't him.
That was Robin. I can't remember the actor's name now. His first name was Robin. I know that much. But yeah, that's a fantastic series. I haven't actually seen the new version of Poldark because to me this is pretty much irreplaceable. I do love that show. So that was what was going on the telly.
Can I just say, Dan, before you move on, thank you very much to Crimpling Doubloon, Frank the Postman, of course, and to Stephen Braddock and Rob Alexander, PC Copper. Of course it was. Thank you, folks. Sorry, as you were, Dan.
We can sleep easy tonight. At the cinema 50 years ago, Jaws was the big film, not just sweeping the nation, sweeping the whole world. Are you a fan of Jaws, Luke, as a filmmaker?
Yeah, I absolutely love it. And to be fair, guilty pleasures, Jaws 2 as well. I love.
What's a good one?
Love the Jaws movies, man. I know everyone rags on Jaws. Is it Jaws 4? Jaws the Revenge?
Yeah.
With,
the Revenge.
What's his name? Michael Caine.
Michael Caine.
The funny story about that is because I think Michael Caine missed an award ceremony with it, and he was like, "Oh, well, why did you miss it to make this stupid movie?" And he was like, "Oh, well, that stupid movie paid for my house." So he was like, "Okay."
There you go.
It's all about the money. But Jaws is phenomenal.
Yeah, agreed.
It was a number of years
One of the
later,
best.
of course, although those sequels, they carried on making them until the late 80s. But the original, absolutely a bit of cinema history all these decades on, but at the time it was seen as I think it was seen as sort of like a cheap thrill. Really,
Well,
that's certainly how.
Well, it was because this was one of Spielberg's really, really early movies, so
Yeah.
he wasn't a name
second,
yet,
third,
Yeah.
and it was seen as sort of this. Oh, it's this sort of summer sort of rubbish,
Blockbuster, yeah. It's the,
yeah, sort of bottom of the barrel type of thing until it came out, and then everybody was like, "Wow, this is incredible."
And of course,
so,
it was Jaws that gave us the title blockbuster. That's where the word blockbuster comes from
Yeah.
Jaws.
yeah.
It invented it.
Very first one, first time around. It was the first time around for Jaws. Wasn't the first time around for Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor. So they got divorced a couple of years ago. But in 1975, around this time, they chose to remarry. Believe it or not, this was a consistent thing with these two. So they'd been together roughly since the early 60s. They were both in the film Cleopatra. And that started this sort of legendary romance between the two movie stars that was all over the tabloids right the way until Richard Burton passed away in, I think it was 1984. So yeah, have you heard of the legend of Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton, Sarah?
Yes, I do. Yeah, and I've seen Cleopatra. Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. Yeah, well, it's obviously where the soaps get all their storylines from, because I'm pretty sure that was a Corrie storyline in the 90s.
Yeah, they often still use that phrase now, the Burton and Liz of Albert Square. That's what.
Oh my God, it's nice to talk about a Welshman on the podcast without absolutely slating him. Jesus, that makes a change. That's a lifeline for a change. Oh, no one would have believed, eh? Jeez.
Richard Burton was an absolute legend. So yeah, Elizabeth Taylor obviously couldn't get enough of him. But for the general public, when it came to the coolest crush around that time, it was David Essex. He had the big hit single, this time in 1975 with Hold Me Close. He had that kind of Romany look, like he was working on a fairground. And the girls just loved him, didn't they, Simon?
Yeah, I remember this track so well. Yeah, he was absolutely huge at the time. As I recall, I could be wrong, I think he got his own TV show at the time as well. People like Cilla Black and David Bowie had their own TV shows for a while. And I'm sure David Essex was one of them that had his own kids TV show on at about 4 o'clock in an afternoon on ITV, something like that.
Yeah,
my mum was a big David Essex fan, so yeah. I know him well, for better or for worse. But he's pretty good on War of the Worlds. I'll give him that.
He's great on War of the Worlds. Brilliant.
I think he's about to go back out on tour as well, David Essex. So all of you old-time fans there remember David Essex back in the day. But I don't know if that sort of gypsy look ever really caught on. I suppose it did. You do sometimes see people in the neckties. But the big fashion statement of the day, the fashion statements were denim, sort of double denim, or leisure suits. So I think it was only a matter of time, Simon, before somebody made a denim leisure suit. And that was definitely the case here, according to this fashion spread. I particularly like the guy in the bright white on the left.
You would not go out with that. If you're going out drinking, you would know within 2 pints.
I mean, I suppose if a bird shit on you, you'd be fine. It wouldn't show.
What shady yellow would you call that? Custard cream?
Daffodil.
It looks like the inside of a Cadbury's cream egg, doesn't it?
It's just awful. And flares. I mean, who wants flared jeans? I mean, really, surely those will never come back into fashion, will they? Oh, they already are in fashion again.
They are back.
I know they are.
Simon, I've got to ask you, did you have flares?
Of course I had flares, Charlotte. I was about 7 years old in 1975. Yes, I had flares.
Here's the question. My dad talks about how he had flares and how he would iron them.
Well, I didn't iron them because I was only 7. But
no.
but my mom probably ironed them. So
he said he would make sure before a night out he would get the ironing board out and iron them.
To iron them in a certain sort of way.
Yes,
I think so. On the left we have the Olympiad, The Olympiad is a European fit that's snugger around the hips and narrow at the thighs. 100% Sloan sateen cotton.
Nice.
Says there, and you get the matching jacket. And on the right, that's called the Brawny, believe it or not. Double knit jeans and matching shirt jack. And it says the cut hails from the West in every detail, right down to the stylish flair. So there you go, give yourself some flair. And maybe, I suppose you could probably still get some of these if you hit the right. Go on Vinted, you may find something that people have dragged out of the wardrobe, Gary.
Not for $40. I mean, that's what's bowling me over is the price, because you can get both the pants and the jacket, either one for $40, which is amazing. I was thinking, these two could have been the original Starsky and Hutch until they decided to go in a different direction, for the show. But
I was thinking that they could have been a couple of guys who failed the recruitment process for Unit.
not the current unit. They'd be welcomed with open arms, but
no, they're a bit camp, I think, for the current unit, aren't they? Let's be honest.
Yeah, the brig would tell them to keep moving.
Too much testosterone for units.
Yeah.
Although that's probably one of these is probably what Yates or Benton wore like on their weekends off. I could see that.
Of course, for Doctor Who viewers, it was all about the Bohemian, wasn't it? Tom Baker had made an impact, hadn't he, the year before? Bit of a cultural impact. To the best of all knowledge, the whole sort of fashion thing, the big scarf, that didn't necessarily take off, or at least not yet. And there was no such thing as cosplay. But there was a Bohemian Rhapsody on the way later in October. Queen released Bohemian Rhapsody for the very first time at the end of October 1975, and it became a huge hit. They were told that nobody would play it because the thing lasted 6 minutes long, but of course they did play it. Kenny Everett was the one to champion it. He insisted on playing it, I think, 2 or 3 times, one after the other on one of his shows, even though his bosses at whatever radio station he was about to get fired from that time, they told him expressly not to. You're a big Queen fan, aren't you, Luke?
Oh yeah, I love Queen. Absolutely love Queen. Hate the film Bohemian Rhapsody. It's an absolute travesty in terms of filmmaking. It's literally, it won the Oscar for editing, and it's the worst edited film I've ever watched in my life. Oh, it's an eyesore to get through. But yeah, absolutely love Queen. Absolutely adore. And Bohemian Rhapsody again is my favorite. My favorite Queen song, original, or love of my life. And if you want to see a really good interpretation of Bohemian Rhapsody, go and search out Lee Evans doing an interpretive dance to it. Absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
Really?
Oh, it's great. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Planet of the Dead's own Lee Evans doing both.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah.
Don't watch it. It's brilliant. It's like how Peter Kay sort of does his thing with music, but different. But
Yeah, I'm sure it's on YouTube. I bet we can find the link. Yeah,
it's actually funny, unlike Peter Kay.
I think he was touring in France and he didn't speak French, so he did this segment for the French. So yeah, the French got it before us, and yeah, it's quite famous now. It was a long time ago, but yes, absolutely hilarious.
I tell you what, though, you've not had fun until you've had to sing this as a soprano at school. That whole bit. And Luke will know exactly what bit I'm referring to when you're just like, right, I need to just decide I'm going to kill my voice for 2 minutes now when I'm trying to get these notes.
Commit to reach the note.
Yes. And afterwards we all went, yeah, we're all right.
I was tiny when this was released, but I do remember Bohemian Rhapsody, the promotional video, because they played it every week on Top of the Pops for weeks and weeks and weeks, however long it was number one. You know, when you're like a baby, like I was about 18 months old or something like that, and when you see something over and over again, it does stay with you, and it freaked me out when all the heads sort of start spinning around and disappearing off into the distance. And that was one of my earliest memories, is the video to this song.
Yeah, I remember it very, very clearly from Top of the Pops the first time it came out, and it was just really quite freaky. It was just so out there, so like nothing you'd ever heard or seen before, because the video itself, the original video, is pretty mad. And so yeah, I just remember it just exploded, and suddenly everybody was talking about this. Quite Legendary, without a doubt.
It was quite a big year, 1975, all things considered. I mean, for Liz and Richard Burton, it seemed like an average year. They got married or divorced one or the other most years. But for everybody else, it was a big year culturally. Things were changing, weren't they? So punk was about to come in. It wasn't quite there yet. But interesting things were happening. And Doctor Who had changed quite a lot, and it had come out of one very successful period, which is sort of slowly wound down, I suppose, the departure of several actors, and then the slow pickup, I suppose, of interest in what Tom Baker was doing, because initially it was a big culture shock, wasn't it? But this is where the stars really started to align, and I think it was given a big push by the decision or the request, I don't know how these things happen, to have the cast of Doctor Who in the September of that year turn on the lights, the Blackpool Illuminations. That happened in the September of 1975, and here's Ian Marter, Tom Baker, and Elizabeth Sladen getting ready sort of to get a bit of purchase on the plunger and to switch it all on. Sarah, do you like the Illuminations at Blackpool? Have you seen this before?
I've seen this picture before. Oh, look, I love Blackpool Illuminations. We used to go quite regularly, and when Doctor Who came back, it was fun to see.
Wow.
The latest Illuminations. I think they got some of the old Daleks as well. I haven't been for quite a while though, unfortunately. But yeah, I imagine this was absolutely huge, and if you were lucky enough to go. Yeah, I just want to know what was going on in Ian Marter's mind and pulling that expression, to be honest. Saying, please let me know in the chat what you.
Tom had probably told him a dirty joke just before.
Probably.
I remember because I used to go to Blackpool pretty much every year at this point, and these images you're showing now, Dan. Yeah, I remember these particular illuminations that you screened.
Really?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I remember these so well.
Cool.
I remember the trams. I was obsessed by the trams because there was one of the trams that was done like a rocket, sort of at an angle about to launch. And I remember as a kid, I was just so desperate to go, because by that point I was obsessed by science fiction, and I was just desperate to go on this on this rocket shaped illuminated tram. So yeah, these Illuminations, yeah, God, this takes me right back. Remember this like yesterday.
It was several years later until I got to go. But I do wonder, Gary, people overseas, when you hear the stories about the cast of Doctor Who turned on Blackpool Illuminations, do you wonder what the hell do they mean? It's sort of like a very mini Vegas.
I love to see all the pictures. I know that during one of his diaries, Simon showed those a little while ago with Pertwee and Liz there. I love to see them opening up, the exhibitions or something like this and just getting flooded with people. I mean, I love seeing that. And this is my favorite TARDIS team of all time. So, I mean, I love this picture. So is this, I've got to ask, so is this kind of like, does Blackpool like close for a while in the summer and then this is a big reopening or something?
No, it's huge. It's massive in the summer. It's hugely open in the summer. And then basically what this is, Gary, is this is kind of the post-summer period when they try to hold on to, they're trying to get a second wind, as it were.
Okay.
And so they're trying to make money through the autumn when traditionally Blackpool would be dead because of the weather. And so that's what they do, the dark early nights, and that's why they do the illuminations. But the turn on of the lights has been a massive thing clearly for decades, as you can see there. They've always had this big thing about which celebrity will turn on the lights this year. I did go the one year, what would it have been, probably about 2007, saw David Tennant.
I was there for that. Yeah.
Were you there for that? That was good, wasn't it? It was fun.
Yeah, I was there. Yeah, I was there. It was busy. It was busy.
Very. Luke, it was jammed, wasn't it?
Yeah, and like Doctor Who took over the UK. It was mad. Like, it was absolutely, David Tennant fever swooped the nation clearly. But no, it was good. Blackpool is now rough as anything.
It is. I'm afraid it's terrible now. Sadly,
because it is a tradition that endures to this day. But Blackpool simply doesn't get the footfall that it used to any time of year, even during this season. So I suppose everything has its time. But as you said, it did come back around to Doctor Who. I think several doctors switched on the lights, and I don't know, maybe one day They will again, but they would be sort of eco lights, wouldn't they? Now
They are. They're I know that they're carbon zero now. The Blackpool Illuminations now are carbon zero. I don't know quite how they've done it, but they are carbon zero.
The Dalek and TARDIS is still there.
They're still there, Luke. Yeah.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, they're still there. Yeah.
My niece and her. How old is Toby now? 2, I think. Toby is absolutely obsessed with proper Doctor Who, and they took him to the Illuminations this year, and so yeah, the Daleks are still there. So there's like 3 generations of Doctor Who fans in my family now. It's brilliant.
Me, Mr. Carley, and Jamie Carroll went last year for the fireworks. Every year the world fireworks competition is in Blackpool, and it's around end of October, mid-October, and I think we went up on a bit of a jolly, to be honest. I think we went up and watched it, and then had a couple of pints, and then we were like, "Oh, let's go find a TARDIS and a Dalek." So you search my Instagram, you will find photos of us there. Like, yeah, no, it's good. It's nice to see them still there. They're right down the far end, though. They're basically in Fleetwood at this point.
Yeah,
like, so out of the way you can't find them, but they are there. They are there if anyone does decide to go.
That's half a century ago, and yet so many of these customs institutions are still in place. Strange to think, isn't it?
It's amazing how the Illuminations certainly have survived, because you say Blackpool is not what it was, and so somehow it's held on to the tradition and keeps going.
I think
Let's see if we
It's the only thing that they still have, which has got a bit of prestige, sadly.
Yeah,
It's sort of still got that veneer, hasn't it? Of nobody else, no other place in the country does it. And like I said, they'll manage to get somebody. They might not be as famous as maybe yesteryear, but there's somebody usually that appears who's semi-famous. And it's just sort of that one little bit of things left that's like, come and have some fun, come and see the Illuminations sort of thing, isn't it?
I think most of us have been at some point. We've either taken somebody, we've been taken ourselves, or gone for a booze up at Blackpool or something like that. I think we speak to most people above a certain age. That's almost certainly happened. Let's go and check in with the live chat now on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and X, and see if we've managed to successfully transport them back to 1975 in readiness.
Welcome to Type 40. Was that good enough? I hope so. Or exterminate, exterminate, exterminate.
1975 and the Blackpool Illuminations, and we have taken a couple of people back in time. Woodhouse 122's in the live chat watching on YouTube and says, I still look forward to going to Blackpool a few times every year. Take your life in your hands, but
I love Blackpool. I do love Blackpool. It's the first time I ever discovered Scottish lemonade.
What's that?
How's Scottish lemonade?
It's black sambuca and lemonade. I was like, this is not a thing. But it was actually really nice. So there we go.
It sounds lethal. I've got to be honest, it sounds absolutely lethal. The big multi-story car park and the police station. All those romantic landmarks, TARDIS travels.
It sounds like TARDIS travels had a hell of a night.
Bloody hell.
It's the order that I'm intrigued with what came first.
That's right.
People talk about the pier or the sandy beach where they may have proposed or been proposed to, but no, the multi-story car park, police station, the public bogs. But TARDIS Travels was there when David Tennant turned on the lights. And Funky says that David Tennant put out a video diary when he was going through the traffic there, probably en route. I think I remember watching that now. You come to
I think I do.
Stephen Brannick says that picture of the cast of Doctor Who turning on the lights in colour is magical. Yes, as we said, that's the work of Clayton Hickman, who colorizes these things so beautifully. And yeah, the roar on Ian Martyr's face. Dear me. And yes, I've just noticed that he has his season 13 outfit here in that picture, says Fly Highland. Yeah, he does. He does. Blackpool is almost as connected to Doctor Who as Blue Peter. And Peter Harrington says that Blackpool is still fantastic. Loads of girls on hen do's.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Hot dogs. Yes,
That's all it is now.
It's fine to me.
Blackpool is the Vegas of the North, says Stephen O'Neill. And,
Yeah.
yes, Stephen remembers those Illuminations as well, Simon, just like you did.
Yeah. Yeah, like Stephen, I remember those nursery rhyme Illuminations. But my favourites, are the spacemen. They got sort of spacemen hanging in spacesuits with visors down. Oh, I was mesmerised by them.
Pan's People and the Lovely Babs, says Peter Harrington. I think Top of the Pops used to run all year round, didn't it? But yeah, it was Bod and Poldark were the big premieres of the autumn of 1975, alongside the returning Doctor Who, of course, which at that time, 12, 13 years, a long time for a TV show. We forget, don't we, now we've had TV for so much longer. Populist TV was still fairly young back then.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, 13 years sort of seemed like a long time at that point. Here we are, sort of 60 years later, but 13 years was a good run for a show in those days. I mean, how many series did you say there were of Poldark?
2.
There you go.
28 episodes, 2 series.
Enough said. But look how huge Poldark was. So it just goes to show how huge Doctor Who was to still be running 13 years later in 1975. That was really unusual. It was only the soap operas. It was only things like Coronation Street at the time that had run as long as Doctor Who.
13 weeks is a long time now for a TV show to run. So,
13 episodes now. They're lucky if they don't get the season cancelled halfway through.
So I know Z-Cars has started in 61 and that was still running, but they were precious few. Funky says, I have a lot of unrepeatable stories of girls' nights out in Blackpool that I experienced. And I think that's probably
I can believe it. I can well believe it.
Well, post those in the comments after the show.
Yes, it's all suitable. 40 Live on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and X. Yeah, we'll take it all. We'll take it all. And when we get back to the future, maybe we'll have some news to shed on how what was going on then affects what's going on now. Keep those comments coming, everybody. We're going to unearth some more memories. We're going to work our way through the box set and get your reactions to all of that as well. Of course we are.
The walls of time are breaking down. You need to listen. The only way to save the universe. Watch Type 40.
Yes, Blackpool. Of course, famous for its exhibitions. At Simon, Sarah, you were making exhibitions of yourself for us over in Peterborough.
Not for the first time.
We really were, yeah.
That is a great picture.
It's quite fun, isn't it? We had so much fun at this. So much fun.
If you want to catch up on the last edition of Type 40 Live, it's here on the playlist. And thank you again to you both for all those pictures, all those memories, and all those laughs, as well as other editions of the show, our deep dives, our Ask Us Anything specials, our reviews of signature Doctor Who stories and movies. There, we hone in on them and go do a full deep dive on those there. Everything's all over on the playlist, and our look at the work of Film is Fabulous too. There, that was quite a conversation that we had, and some very exciting developments that we're watching just as closely as you are. And if you want to support Film is Fabulous, all the links are in the description and the show notes too. Okay, with our whistles fully wet and primed for 1975, I think. Let's have a tune and go right the way back.
You were gone before we could tell you were number one. Typing in a cloud of tobacco smoke, kicks TV with a dirty joke. You called it hope and pulp and fluff, but it rang number one. You were cranking it out at a rapid pace. Every world felt like a real place. Your brain and your pen might have taken you high, but fate marked you for the cheap sci-fi. Ba, 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 ba. You were gone. We never gotta tell you you were number one. Number one. Ba, 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 ba. You were gone. We never gotta tell you you were number one. Number one. Tapping in a cloud of tobacco smoke. Kids TV with a dirty joke. You called it hope and pulp and fluff, but it rang with the truth of weird stuff. Ba, 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 ba. You were gone. Never gotta tell you you were number one. Number one. Ba, 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 ba. You were gone. Never gotta tell you you were number one. Number one. Number one.
If that doesn't put a smile on your face, I don't know what will. So here we are.
I love that song.
Never gets old.
Okay, so for the 18th release of these limited edition box sets of the classic series on Blu-ray, BBC Studios released an 8-disc box set of season 13, Tom Baker's second as the Doctor, originally broadcast between autumn of 1975 and spring 1976. Slightly before my time, technically, but all of my earliest memories of Doctor Who do come from this run. It picks up with the trio of time travelers as they're called back to Earth by the Brigadier to investigate a monstrous attack on an oil rig, of all things. It all gets bigger, darker, and more gothic from there across those 6 stories and 26 episodes all in all. This is a fan favourite assortment brought to us by a combination of the series' most celebrated names, both on screen and behind the cameras. Everything sort of coming together, lightning in a bottle, I suppose. All the pieces being in the right places on the board. And we've got TV gold. Doctor Who's golden age is the term that gets bandied about a lot, Simon. Is that stating it?
No. I just think, I genuinely think season 13 and 14 are the 2 best seasons of classic Doctor Who. And we're done. It is as simple as that. 13 and 14 are just as good as it ever got. And I remember season 13 so clearly. And the thing that's worth pointing out as well is just a couple of weeks before season 13 had started, of course, we had seen, we'd had Disney Time presented by Tom Baker. And I still remember the end of Disney Time when Tom Baker says, and I'm sure it's on the box set, isn't it? It's in the Blu-ray somewhere, this Disney Time, the links. And of course, Tom Baker says at the end, "Oh, I've just had a telegraph call or whatever from the brig, and so I've got to go back." And then, of course, that went straight into that slid so beautifully into episode 1 of Terror of the Zygons. So for me, as a 7-year-old, when this was going out, it was quite mesmeric. I was definitely getting caught up in the magic of Doctor Who, because there was something very magical about Tom Baker saying the week before, I'm going to be back next week with a new, and I'm going to be going and helping the brig. So I've got to go now to help him. And then the week after, there we are in Terror of the Zygons. It was just a magical time, and it was definitely. I can pinpoint season 13 as the point that I just became irretrievably obsessed by Doctor Who. I'd loved it up until that point. But season 13 just really blew my mind and cemented me forever as just an absolute crackers Doctor Who fan. Magic.
Now in the age of franchises and multiple shows set in the same universe across promotion and new media, the idea of simply including the Doctor reading out the links in between bits of cartoons on something like Disney Time, it's really sort of rudimentary cross promotion. Gary, but it's all very quaint and very homely, and that's kind of what British TV was like up until about 15 years ago. It was still sort of like that.
Well, I mean, I was just thinking that, I'm not sure if it would have been sometime during season 12 or during season 13. It seemed like Tom's interpretation of the character just caught wildfire, and all of a sudden, on all the Weetabix stuff and all of the stuff like that, the Target books were about to begin their new explosion. After the reprint of the early 3, and it just seems like it was a juggernaut everywhere. So it seems like that kind of cross promotional show, like the Disney thing, was just taking advantage of like the instant popularity.
It was starting to happen. It was starting to happen for him, Luke. I mean, he wasn't an overnight success in the role, but then again, few people have been, have they?
No, not at all. But you can see like how popular he was straight away as well. And you see the stuff of him going up to I think it was the schools in Australia as well, talking to the kids about the role, and you can see how enamored he was with it and how he kind of took it as well, especially with when Hinchcliffe come on board. They kind of left the Barry Letts era, and the Terror of the Zygons is kind of the end of the Pertwee connection, and then you've got Harry as well, and then Tom goes into his own, and you go Pyramid Mars, Brandon Morbius, you go down the gothic horror route as well, and it's just, I know, I agree. I think season 12 and season 13 are probably god tier Doctor Who. I was watching Terror of the Zygons last night, and I was like, oh wow, it's not this season.
Brilliant, isn't it, Luke? It doesn't get any better.
No, I haven't seen it. I haven't got it on DVD. I got it on VHS. I'm going to VHS player. So I was like, I'm going to treat myself. I'm feeling rough as anything. I watched Terror, and I was like, oh, this is so good.
Because I was starting to become aware of Doctor Who, being aware that it was always on a Saturday tea time, for example, aware of the signature tune, of the opening titles, all of those cornerstones. It was sinking in with me, the series, in a sort of habit-forming way. As I say, when you're that young, familiarity, and when things sort of repeat, you do like it. That's one of the reasons why Teletubbies was such a success, because they played the same sort of 5 minutes worth of footage sort of 3 times in a row, didn't they, to make up the average episode. But this was like no other show on TV, I think, particularly when you're of that age, because it immediately made you feel like you were, if not necessarily in any kind of danger, but like you were going somewhere else. I mean, does that still survive in this sort of vintage material, Charlotte, when you find it decades later?
Yeah, because I remember we've talked about fan wisdom before and received fan wisdom, and when I was starting to look back at classic, it was always sort of held up this era whenever I saw anybody talk about it, to be like, oh, this is the best. And you sort of go, oh, am I going to like it? Because you've heard so many people sort of say how good and how this is their era. And for me, it was definitely the Gothic theme that I instantly clicked with, and how a lot of the stories were sort of mirroring or using classic literature. Like, one of my favourite books to this day is Frankenstein. So, like, the fact that they could take those concepts in Brain and in other things, like, you could see Dracula in other stuff. I adore Dracula as well. So to see that feel, but to see that they're not just copying it, which would have been the easy thing to do. It could have just been, oh, he's met this author, or that's clearly meant to be Jonathan Harker, but let's give him a different name. But no, they were like, let's sort of take those stories and give them a new lease of life through Doctor Who lens and through the characters. So for me, it definitely, I was a bit nervous going in, but I did really enjoy it once I did watch it.
What's different for us, I suppose, is that we know how many stories there are, which one comes after the other. You know, we can take those steps back, look at the episode guide, and say, oh, there's a theme, there's a tone, but when you're between the age of, well, like I was 18 months, 2 years old, something like that. When you're between the age of sensible age, like 4, maybe 5, up until about 12, you don't know how dark something like this is going to go. For all you know, it's 4 weeks of something really, really quite gothic and scary and set at night time in an old castle. And then you could be off going on some cotton wool planet where the sky is pink and this, but it just gets darker and darker and darker.
And I think the thing is that we forget, certainly one of the things that modern Doctor Who has forgotten is that Doctor Who was scary. That was what it was meant to be. It was meant to scare kids, and it scared the life out of me and in a brilliant way. I loved being scared, and it really seems strange in recent years. Well, in many ways, most modern Who, sort of post 2005, most of it is probably not scary in that way. Some of it is. They would have the odd episodes, but certainly they've lost it completely now. And I think that's such a shame, because to say, these Gothic episodes, there is nothing scarier than these Gothic episodes. That comment you brought up a few minutes ago saying that season 13 is perfect for Halloween. It is. It's just perfect for this time of year. And that's why Doctor Who found its perfect spiritual home when they started screening it in the autumn, which they did. At this point, this was the first time really it had been screened. It had been premiered in the autumn, and it just felt so right. It was just for these, for the dark nights, for the early nights, just perfect timing.
And what was impressive, Simon, it was the story ideas that were dark.
Yeah.
They didn't, because of the time slot and what it was, they could never get loads of blood, guts and
No.
gore and all of that.
No.
But you can tell, like I said, it was this quite complex idea.
Yeah.
And actually quite stark if you think about it too much.
Yeah.
Sort of disguised beautifully almost in some of these stories that when you think about it, you go, bloody hell, that's
It's
dark.
actually
It's
quite
a
dark.
story.
Yeah.
There's a lot of psychological horror.
Yes.
So obviously, I was an adult, a young adult, but still adult when I came to it. And I remember thinking, how the hell did they get away with this at tea time viewing? Obviously, we're used to Doctor Who being on from 7 o'clock onwards, and it seemed to get later and later. Like, you had your tea to this. And I just like the suspense, Sarah being blind, stumbling around the house, and, in Mobius. And it's just, I was just absolutely amazed that they got away with this stuff.
I'm not entirely convinced that they did, Simon, get away with it, because this is when it started to make the radar of the National Viewers and Listeners Association around this time.
Yeah, it did. From that point of view, it did begin to go wrong for it in that respect. Because, you're right, Sarah. There's lots and lots of psychological horror, particularly in season 13. But there's also actually a lot of body horror in season 13. You have got brains splattered on the floor. You have got Kondo is shot in the stomach very, very visibly and visually. Gary, that's quite shocking, isn't it?
Well, that's what I was going to say. It's that moment actually for me throughout the whole season is the most jarring, because everywhere else the violence is really kind of like otherworldly. It's like mummies crushing somebody, which isn't going to happen on your playground.
Yeah.
Or Zygons all of a sudden like suddenly appearing and Sarah screams. It's this kind of otherworldly violence, which is why the more down to earth violence of like when Kondo gets shot and you see the splatter from something, that's all of a sudden that's mundane earthly violence that we can understand, and it feels like more real and more jarring. And that's the kind of thing where you think, okay, that's where they probably started to take.
Well, and they do. I'm sure Hinchcliffe has gone on record as saying they overstepped the mark with that, and it should, the shooting of Kondo in particular shouldn't have been allowed.
Right.
I know that the splattering of the brains on the floor, I know that caused a lot of problems, but I don't think anybody on the production team ever sort of felt they'd gone too far with that, as horrific as grisly really as that is. It certainly didn't freak me as a 7-year-old.
Obviously, aesthetically, the series needed to change. It needed to evolve. I wouldn't say it had been stuck in a rut, but when you watch it back now, you can see that times were changing, and Doctor Who was in danger of being left behind those times. So that was well judged, but I suppose they were doing so whilst I think they were doing so with confidence, but they couldn't possibly have known entirely how it would be received, particularly when they were making so many episodes, 26 episodes, even at 25 minutes each. That's a lot. That's a lot. by modern standards, they take far longer period of time to put together a selection of stories, an assortment of those sorts of stories. Now they'd probably run them past so many focus groups and things like that. Stephen O'Neill reminds us that when I watched it in 1975, you didn't have the next time clips like you do in most television now.
Every television.
Which does spoil it, but it sort of gives people an idea of, okay, what's the tone going to be like next? It sort of it takes your hand and sort of guides you through the rest of a season. And whilst we're not on board with that, we reject that. I think these trailers that they put together are pretty good.
I'm a Time Lord. I'm not a human being. I walk in eternity. Why have you called me back? I hope you've got a very good reason.
There's something rather unusual in the lock.
Don't tell me you found the monster.
Exactly what could have caused injuries like that, Doctor?
Something very big.
Very savage.
I am Proton, warlord of the Zygons.
My theory is correct. We're going to have to handle this very, very carefully.
Someone's in trouble.
Where?
Who knows? The killings always happened at night.
Oh, yes. The nights are the worst. I've made the greatest discovery in scientific history.
You're tampering with the balance of nature on this planet in ways you don't understand. Beware Sutek.
Egyptology and Mars?
I bring Sutek's gift of death.
The world is facing the greatest peril in its history.
I even find watching it like this chill.
It's weird. A whole village full of people can't just disappear.
This isn't real wood. These are not real trees. And you're not the real Sarah. There's something going on here, some dirty work.
Morbius offered them greatness once, but he was betrayed and rejected.
Just to walk again, to feel, to see.
On guard, Morbius. Interesting, isn't it? A human being whose blood is turning into vegetable soup. What you have done could result in the total destruction of all life on this planet.
What do you do for an encore, Doctor?
Doctor Who, the collection.
What a collection that is as well. Terror of the Zygons, Planet of Evil, Pyramids of Mars, The Android Invasion, The Brain of Morbius, and the season finale, as we'd now call it, the 6-part epic, The Seeds of Doom. How on earth can you pick a favourite from this list? I mean, this is quite a collection of stories written by some of the series' biggest names and beautifully put together in yet another box set here from BBC Studios. Artwork by Lee Binding, inside and out. All those extras. What are you going to head to? Which story are you going to head to first with this? Do you watch them in a linear way, Luke, or do you sort of dive in with whichever you feel like watching in the there and then?
No, I'm doing a linear. I just finished Terror of the Zygons last night, so yeah, I'm going to do it completely linear. I started delving into the bonus features then last night before I started anything else, and just having a bit of fun. There's a nice little behind the scenes making of documentary as well with Hinchcliffe and everyone about Terror of the Zygons, and they talk about the disappointment of the Skarissen and everything, and shooting on location and the model work, and it's quite a cool one. It's one I haven't seen for a while. So, but yeah,
we've got a breakdown of the features coming up a little later on.
Yeah, and the Doctor Escape Room's on there as well, which is the best thing ever invented. Like it's the funniest thing ever. I think there's one with Maureen O'Brien and Peter Purvis, and it's literally it's about 4 hours long. And you can play the Doctor Who escape room drinking game, and it's the funniest thing in the world. So, absolutely, if you could check them out, go check them out. They're hilarious.
Has anybody got a favourite story from this season, or is that kind of by the by when it comes to seasons of classic Doctor Who? Because I'm not sure I could pick one. This is quite a hit rate.
It's an embarrassment of riches. It is.
even though they're thematically the same and we know what the influences are, they're still really distinctive, Simon. So I always struggle.
We struggle simply because just about every story is just utterly superb. There's only one for me that stands out as the weak story, and that's the android invasion. And episode 1 is just magnificent, and then it kind of falls off a cliff somewhat for me. But the rest of them, you know, just every single story for me is just about as perfect as it gets. But my personal favorite is undoubtedly the Seeds of Doom. I just think the Seeds of Doom is one of the greatest Doctor Who stories of all time, bar none. So it ends on a high point for me. Do you agree with that, Gary? You're not.
Absolutely. It's in one of my top 5 all-time Doctor Who
I would agree.
stories. Impeccable guest cast. The dialogue is endlessly quotable. Fantastic cliffhangers. The tone is a little bit different because we have Tom kind of punching people and jumping through. It feels sometimes more like an Avengers episode than a Doctor Who episode. But it's just a faultless production. It goes from the first 2 episodes, which are kind of like The Thing, and then it shifts into Day of the Triffids almost. So it's it's outstanding.
And the thing that I think is interesting with season 13 is that some of the special effects are great. Some of them are quite hokey. Some of the sets are poor. I still criticize the sort of the bridge set from Planet of Evil. So it has its faults, is what I'm saying. It definitely has its weak points. And as I say, some of these special effects are not that special. What's interesting, I think, about season 13, and you've touched on it there, Gary, it's the guest cast, it's the writing. So much of the dialogue in season 13 is just absolutely searingly good. You say, Gary, that just about every line is quotable.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, when you have the villain, the great villain Harrison Chase saying, like, I could play all day in my green cathedral. It's like, okay, this guy. I think that you have to have one of the reasons I picked Seeds of Doom. I think because as a viewer, it elevates. If you can see the Doctor and Sarah, things escalating and almost kind of just getting out of control, where the Doctor is kind of freaking out and yelling and everything, that to the viewer indicates to us the level of the jeopardy. When with Scorby, when Scorby's going, there's a chance, and he goes, there is no chance. That's impactful for us because we're going, holy crap, things are bad. And it needs that.
As I say, the thing is with them, they're just every single one of the stories is just top quality. Does anybody else have a favorite, or is it impossible to tell? Go on, Charlotte.
Mine's Brain, because and it's not just because of the Frankenstein stuff.
Yes.
Because I think Morbius is an absolutely fascinating character. Like, out of all the villains of classic, he's the one that I find the most compelling, because you sort of have this incredible intellect at one point, you can tell, sort of being diminished and changed and morphed and sort of becoming lesser and lesser. And I think, honestly, this is a very sort of, nowadays it would be seen as this incredible sort of way to portray mental illness and sort of mental sort of how your brain can just deteriorate. And you see that with him and all the actor and the lines, like you said, and the performance. But the other thing is, with the Frankenstein comparison, I love how it's a flip. Because if you know the book of Frankenstein, the whole point is that he's this creature on the outside, he's horrible, he's monstrous, but he's actually incredibly emotionally actually kind and wants to protect and actually wants love and wants acceptance and all those sort of themes. That's the point of the book. And it's the humans in the book which are the real sort of so-called monsters with what they've done to him. So in here they flipped it, that the monster is a monster, and he is actually almost that combined thing of, in Frankenstein, it's science and how far you're willing to go for science, and human life and the cost of human life, and morals. So they sort of combine so many different things of that book in Morbius. And then you've got the Time Lord link. I always find it fascinating when classic does the Time Lord stuff, because they're all different. Not a single sort of Time Lord you come across during classic has a similar personality. They all show another part of sort of the society. And you sort of go afterwards, that's probably another reason why the Doctor wanted to run from them. You can sort of understand more of the Doctor then, why he was the renegade, why he sort of wanted, he said afterwards they were decaying his own society. Morbius is a brilliant example of that. So yeah, it's Morbius.
And even though, Charlotte, the Doctor is still, in this earlier incarnation, very verbose, he doesn't, the dialogue is not, it's not all exposition. It feels like a natural conversation. He doesn't go into great detail. It seems to be about his reaction, an emotional reaction, and a responsibility to resolve the situation, just like he would wherever he was, and whatever the threat was that he was facing, and wherever it came from.
Yeah, I think though with the Doctor, there's that added thing of it's one of his people, because the Doctor always acts different when it's one of his own.
Whereas now we get
else.
Gallifreyan incidental music sort of swelling up behind us. We'd get lots of staring into the middle distance, and I thought it was him, and it was build up and it would build up like that. And there's a place, I love all that stuff up to a point, but when you see a story like this, how carefully written it is, and I think how disciplined it is, I suppose, Sarah. I think that's what Charlotte's sort of honing in on, and that's what I think I'm reflecting on. Being each chunk of it being just 25 minutes to make that amount of impact and to sell us on the stakes of those stories.
Yeah, absolutely, and it does all the acting involved. It does sell you on the stakes very, very quickly. And I always thought, and there's not always just one threat. There's usually several threats. You know, in Morbius, we haven't just got Morbius. You know, we've got the Sisterhood of Khan. You know, trying to set fire. Sacrifice, and you've got all this kind of, you know, you've got the problems of the planet, and Seeds of Doom. One of the most horrific things in Seeds of Doom is it's not just the aliens, it's not just Harrison Chase and his henchmen, you know, even the butler's evil. I mean, when he feeds that raw meat, knowing full well, oh God, I got shivers. Yeah, so there's all these, you know, dangers coming. And some are human, some aren't. And yeah, I struggle to choose a favourite. I'm kind of torn between Seeds of Doom just because it is so cinematic. But I love Pyramids of Mars because I love the Egypt kind of thing. And I love anything that's kind of filmed on location. To me, that I seem to receive that better. Terror of the Zygons, the Scotland stuff. I seem to receive that better than the studio stuff, which I think Morbius kind of suffers a little bit from. But like Charlotte was saying, the story's compelling. You know, seeing another Time Lord, because at this point we only knew the Master. Seeing Morbius was fascinating, and I'm braining Morbius as one of the best lines ever with the "My, what a magnificent head!" It's just fantastic. We didn't know what was going on right from there. I love Philip Maddock.
Those are the kind of lines as well that the kids who'd have watched that would have been repeating in the playground a couple of days later to one another when they were recounting the bits, the moments that chilled them the most.
And can I just say how refreshing it is not to have the Doctor know everything about the monster, the planet, and the situation in the first 2 minutes.
Yeah.
That's as it should be.
To be learning as you go along.
Now it's like there's nothing for him to find out because he already knows everything about everything in the first 5 minutes of the episode.
That's one of the things that I think works so well in Pyramids of Mars is the way that it unfolds, and we go along with the Doctor as he learns and uncovers, and so ultimately he gets down to he knows who this is, but it takes him a long time to get there. And it's that, you know, I still, one of the most chilling moments for me in the whole of season 13 is that moment where he's deciphered the Morse code coming from the signal rather coming from Mars, and it's just that beware Sutek, and the way he says it, It's just like, all
he
the
says
blood
it differently.
drains from your body.
Every time he says the name Sutekh, he says it ever so slightly differently in a variety of grim ways. And this is what I mean about less is more, because there's probably less dialogue in that story than there would be in one 40-minute episode of Doctor Who for the 21st century.
Yes.
But it's so beautifully balanced, and you're sort of hanging on every word. Seeds of Doom is a big favourite here in the live chat on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and X. It's the one that keeps popping up. But then again, so does Terror of the Zygons, and both of them were written by Robert Banks Stewart. The only two stories he ever wrote for the show, weren't they? Very rich stories, very characteristic of their time. A curious writer who went on to create shows, run shows, wrote for just about everything. But this season is unimaginable without him. He was sort of brought in by Robert Holmes. I mean, is Robert Holmes to blame for all of this, for all that is terrifying in Doctor Who, or does he share responsibility with Philip Hinchcliffe? Who was the bad influence on who, basically?
Oh, 100% it's Holmes. 100%. Hinchcliffe absolutely, of course, went along with it. He knew what Holmes was doing, but the horror came from Holmes, and Hinchcliffe just put his thumbs up and said, "Okay, yeah, let's do it." It was, and of course, Holmes wanted to take things further. And even Hinchcliffe sort of reeled him back. And of course, you only need to look at that famous scene in The Ark in Space that Holmes wrote, that Hinchcliffe then cut when Noah's head splits open. And they filmed it. It was there, but Hinchcliffe saw the light of day there and realised. It all came from Holmes. Hinchcliffe, as I say, went along for the ride, but was he got one foot on the brake, whereas Holmes had got his foot on the accelerator all the way through. As he used to say, Holmes used to famously say, just scare the little buggers. That was his modus operandi.
We've been. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, I think some of that was just they were honing in on the kind of doctor they had in Baker.
To an extent, yeah, I think so.
I can't picture Pertwee in these stories.
No.
I can't picture Bill or Troughton or
Whereas you can in the bulk of season 12s, I think.
Yes, that's what I mean. This one feels this is the start of only Tom could be the Doctor.
Yeah.
For these stories, like his sort of sense of humour that came through, like you said, that line. The headline? That's Tom's humour. That's the wittiness of Tom's Doctor, and then you've got the sort of the alienness of his Doctor that sort of matches the dark and the stark nature. I think of some of these stories. I just think the other Doctors would feel it was almost too much for their incarnations at times.
And in addition to that, Charlotte, it's not only the stories themselves; the villains were getting a lot darker. I don't see a lot of these villains working. I mean, Pertwee had the Master, yes, and he had some.
But the Master was very pantomime-esque in many ways.
Exactly, but I mean, the nature of these villains, with the body horror is just going to extremes. I mean, we're talking about favorite stories. My favorite individual scene in the entire season was in the trailer, Dan, that you played, which is in Zygons, the scene of the Zygon Harry in the shadows in the loft looking down. They showed that in the trailer. But that to me, well, obviously because he's wearing the face of, somebody who we really like, but that scene half in shadow is just, if I was a kid, I'd go, oh my gosh.
I honestly think that one shot with Harry in the shadows in the hayloft, it's straight out of a horror film. It could have been straight out of something like, I don't know, The Wicker Man or something like that. Or Hammer House of Horror. It just is, it's absolute horror film stuff without any blood, without any gore, without any monsters. It's just a horror film shot. It's quite I think that's you could write a thesis on that one shot and about what it represents in season 13. Quite remarkable.
I had it paused yesterday on that shot because I had to jump in a meeting, and my missus come in and she was like, "Are you watching an interview with a vampire or something?" I was like, "No, it was Terror."
But easy mistake to make.
And she's like,
what's weird? I don't know if you guys thought this, Luke and Charlotte, but I came to Terror of the Zygons after The Day of the Doctor.
Yes.
So I was like, Zygons, what are these? I don't know these.
Okay.
Actually, I found the Zygons more terrifying
Yeah.
in this story than they ever were in The Day of the Doctor.
But that's what I say. They don't go for scares anymore. Doctor Who doesn't do scares. And in all honesty, this isn't I'm not criticizing really modern Who. In many ways, I'm criticizing most stuff after Hinchcliffe and Holmes left. Because this period, season 12, 13 and 14, those are the kind of the 3 horror years of Doctor Who. And after that, it was never really scary. A lot of the Pertwee stuff was quite scary, what Barry Letts and Terence Dicks were doing. But certainly once you get into Graham Williams, it obviously starts to get quite comical. And so the horror goes, and it never recovered that. It never recovered what it had in these 3 Hinchcliffe seasons in the way of horror.
Losing the warmth of the 3 central characters as well.
Yeah.
And Harry in particular, who was, an imbecile. But more to the point, Harry was
a lovable imbecile.
He was very, very lovable and very, very affable and very, very safe. And so I'm always sad to see him depart.
Yeah.
I think it's probably right that he did. I mean, he just popped back very, very briefly at the towards the end of this season. So we do see him again, but the writing was probably on the wall for the character. And I think it is sad that Ian Marter's time on the show as a regular was cut short. But again, the show was moving with the times. It was evolving. It was going to a place that it couldn't have gone before. It had no need for any sort of ensemble anymore. So both Harry and Unit sort of evaporate in this, and we're left with Sarah Jane Smith, possibly the greatest Doctor Who companion of them all, played by Elizabeth Sladen, and her Doctor. And if Harry had have remained, then this legendary pairing, I suppose, this iconic pairing, would never have happened. It would never have endured in the way that it has, I don't think. I think it needed to be the 2 of them for the intimacy.
Yeah.
To convince us of the stakes when they went to the places that particular script editor and producer were going to take them. It wouldn't have worked with 3 or more.
I do have to say, though, that I mentioned before, the Doctor, Sarah, and Harry are far and away my favorite TARDIS team in the classic series. And whether the origin of Harry being there, was an accident because they hadn't cast the Doctor yet, the chemistry between the 3 of them was impeccable. And I was honestly bereft when Harry left, because I think they just worked so well together. And I think in later years, even Hinchcliffe acknowledged that was one of his big mistakes, that he underestimated the chemistry that the 3 of them had. So he stuck to his initial plan just to give him a good leaving point. And remember, Zygons was originally, and even now still feels like, the climax of the 12th season. It kind of rounds off.
It was.
Yeah.
It was intended to be.
They moved it. So it's fortunate that tonally it still fits so well in season 13. But yeah, I always feel a huge loss when Harry leaves.
I agree. I loved Harry as a kid. I still love him now. But I think you're right, Dan. I think there is the old saying, 2's company, 3's a crowd. And I think what they got then with the Doctor and Sarah, basically Tom and Liz, it was that pairing that absolutely, that was lightning in a bottle again. The pair of them just absolutely clicked, and it's just magnificent to see on screen. So as much as I love Harry, and I absolutely adore Ian Marter as an actor, I think he's so underrated. I think, unfortunately, with my sort of TV production hat on, I think it was the right decision to make, in all honesty, as sad as that
I think it's all down to intimacy, and I think the idea that the Doctor and Sarah are best friends.
Yeah,
they're often on one another's shoulders or hand in hand. And
Yeah.
if you can't put three people hand in hand. Everything just looks too Enid Blyton. It feels like there's too many of them. There's less danger because if one loses the other, I don't know. That's why when you watch Genesis of the Daleks, it always feels like even though there's the two of them there, you sort of forget that what one of them is doing at any given time. The series is breaking out there and then, I think, before our very eyes. It's evolving constantly all the time. We've got this comment here from Problem Being watching on YouTube. Our old mate Problem Being, who says half of Tom's dialogue is just eyes and looks and smiles. And that works better than a load of words half the time. And because the connection between them is so strong, you feel that she knows what's on his mind to some extent, or what he would do. And he knows, I never get the impression, for example, that the Doctor has forgotten whatever's going on. He's conscious of the situation, of the jeopardy that Sarah is in. And so it just feels so close-knit in a way that I don't think that Tom ever did with anybody else.
No, it's like you've got that moment in Brain when Sarah does get hurt and she's in real danger, and you can the Doctor doesn't say he's angry, doesn't say how much Sarah means to him in his dialogue, but it's the way Tom acts. He suddenly becomes almost like this cornered animal, and he has this sort of sense of, I don't know what he's going to do, because he knows Sarah's in trouble, and that brings almost, like I said, the animal out. And the way he talks to the sisterhood, you can see he's sort of just keeping the emotions just about in check. But now he's royally off. Basically, he's really like Sarah's in danger.
He does seem like a Time Lord on a brink several times throughout the entire season.
And I think if there would have been a Harry in that situation to maybe deflect a bit or to help Sarah out, it wouldn't have had that sense of like impending sort of danger. But because the Doctor and Sarah were the only ones there, and he was sort of in that situation where the sisterhood were causing him issues, they were stopping him from getting to his best mate. And that's the best. I find that always with a Doctor. You put a road mark, you put a hurdle between him and a companion he's really close to. That's the most interesting, usually Doctor scenes you ever get on this show.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look how he is in Seeds with Scorby when they're in the Arctic, and she gets taken away, and he is just
brutal. He's brutal.
And we'd never seen this Doctor like that. Just absolutely.
He grows more and more impatient with him, doesn't he? As his humanity slips away, you see the Doctor say, "Okay, how many more? How much more generosity can I extend towards this person?" Rose Kirby in the live chat is asking us, "Who is the biggest villain of season 13? Who do you think the biggest villain is, Luke?" I mean, I suppose it is the giant crinoid if you're looking at sort of en masse, but I think she probably means who's the nastiest one with the nastiest plan, the most formidable villain.
I'd have to, I think Morbius for me. I think Morbius is another level. Morbius is a favorite of mine, like Charlotte's. And when you listen to him come back as well in Big Finish as well, just adds on top of that mystery and that mythology. And I think for me, Brain and Morbius is the standout.
I think for me it would be Harrison Chase. I think is the most interesting villain in season 13, but in many ways the biggest villain, really, I would say, is Sutekh. As little as Sutekh does, it's all in Gabriel Wolf's voice, and that dialogue it's giving me goosebumps just thinking about some of that dialogue now. Wherever I walk, I leave nothing but dust and destruction. I find that good. It's just utterly chilling, and the way Gabriel Wolf delivers it, those words just literally drip from his tongue. It's just Shakespearean to me in its standard, and he's still sitting down at this point. He barely moves a muscle throughout it's all done through voice and brilliant design, which we talked about.
We did.
Funnily enough, on the show when we were talking about the Peterborough Museum, because of course they've got a Sutek representation in there, and we were talking about how simple that design is, and yet it's so beautifully, utterly chilling. And you compare it, and I'm not going down a rabbit hole of talking about the new series, but I'm using it as a brutal, simple comparison. Something that's under-designed and majestic to over-designed, and fails, and that's where they were bang on the money with season 13. So in many ways, I'd actually choose Sutek as the biggest villain.
I'd agree with you, Simon. And we see the consequences when the Doctor shows Sarah her time and what would happen if Sutek won. So it's kind of all laid out. This is what will happen if we let Sutek win. And and he controls the Doctor. He he tortures him. He brings him to his knees. He brings our hero,
plaything of Sutek,
and reduces him to this crawling ant. And you're just like, my God, if he can do this to the Doctor, what else can he do? So I think he's the most powerful.
And he's still sitting down, Sarah.
He's still just sitting down in his chair.
I tell you what's good about this, though. If you look at this compared to like the newer series, it's like the state. That your character's going to survive and everything, but the stakes feel so real, and you feel like, oh my god, anything could happen. But whereas, like in the modern series, if a companion's in danger, you're like, oh, right, well, the Doctor's just going to fix it straight away.
And even if they die, they'll come back to life again.
But then,
feels like
you're watching it now, and you're like, oh, this is so tense, and everything's happening. And you're like, oh my god, everything feels so much more real and so much more dramatic. And it's like,
well, again, going back to that scene of Tom in the Doctor in Sutek's tomb, where the eyes. The green eyes just blast out to him, and Tom is just, as you say, Sarah, he's just sort of in pieces on the floor. It's utterly, and then he sort of sits up and he's just fake. I don't know how Tom does it, but somehow when he looks back and he's possessed, he's now possessed, and his face somehow becomes so cadaverous. I don't know what he does to it, but you genuinely believe that this character has been taken over and possessed, and all hope is lost because the touchstone that you had, the Doctor, is now lost and gone. And it's just all done through Tom's look. It's just incredible.
And again, it would have been the easiest thing in the world for him to ham that up. Which he probably would have done later on in his stint. I don't know.
He would, Dan.
But I think as well, it's that idea of death just being around every corner in these stories. Like you've got that image there from Planet. Like I watched it back recently, and I forgot. Just literally, it opens up with a graveyard and about 5 people dying, and it's not just like they sort of you hear a noise and they go and they fall over. Like it's not that kind of death. It's you see their bodies shrink slowly and become nothing, and so it's like. And I that's why I think even if you're not going to kill your main characters, how you deal with death with other characters, if you make that unforgiving and feeling like any minute one of them could die, then you don't know what's going to happen, and it sort of puts this sort of in my head, I see this season as almost the Grim Reaper is sort of hovering above really every story in some way. He's going to get his job done with some poor character in these stories.
And even in Planet of Evil, which in my view is easily the least successful of all the stories that doesn't, in my view, come together, you still believe that you are where they say you are. And and you've got to admire the audacity, the scope of the story that's being told with 100% conviction and such bold ideas, innovations in special effects. I wouldn't go so far as to say this production team were fearless, but you can see why this show stood out. You could say it made it a target, but I think that you can see it stood out for all the right reasons as well. And I think it's when you look at the TV landscape of the time, and there were other sci-fi shows, British shows and international shows being shown on a regular basis. Nothing was striking the balance anywhere near as successfully as Doctor Who. Say what you like about the Space 1999s and all these other things that have sort of endured on their own terms. There's a reason why those shows are footnotes in some respects and don't escape the trappings of their times.
Well, interestingly, Dan, that's a really interesting comparison because, of course, Space 1999 was being made at exactly the same time as this, and in fact was screening at exactly the same time in the UK on ITV. So you could literally watch Prentice Hancock in Planet of Evil on BBC One, and you could turn over to ITV and watch Prentice Hancock in Space 1999. So it's a perfect comparison. But actually the gulf between the two series is massive. Space 1999, much as I love it, and I do love Space 1999, but it very much feels like it's thrashing around trying to find an identity. And then Doctor Who on the other side, as we used to say, it's just absolutely blasting through. It's just ploughing forward with total confidence. So although it's difficult to know how confident the production team felt at this point, did they know they were doing good stuff? Well, not really, no, because as we've talked about before, Planet of Evil was actually the first kind of true Hinchcliffe Holmes production, in that it was the first thing that they themselves had commissioned, that they weren't handed by the previous regime. So actually season 13, by season 14, they knew they were onto a winner. Season 13, they were taking risks, and some of the stuff in season 13 is so risky. We talked about brains splattered on the floor, Kondo being shot, this kind of stuff. It was dark, dangerous stuff, and it could have backfired. I mean, ultimately, you could argue that it did backfire because Hinchcliffe got moved on. But did they know what they were doing? No, I don't think so. I think they knew what they wanted to do and what they hoped to achieve, but they genuinely had no idea whether it would work or not. It was a risk.
I think the positioning, the casting of Tom Baker at the precise time, the hint that they must have seen in his work in the previous season. Okay, we can unlock this side to the character that none of the three guys who've played before, as brilliant as they were, they didn't have that component part to them. This is something that is uniquely Tom. Corvin has been in the live chat here on YouTube. Charlotte mentions your comment, your great insight into Tom's performance at the time, the way he's able to layer whimsy with, as you say, that real animal danger, says Corvin. Absolutely right. You see, we examine it all these years on, 50 years on.
Well,
and in many respects, you think, well, must we shred it apart like this? It's not going to hurt the material in any way. This is really, really strong stuff. And when you look at Doctor Who's entire history, and I include up until 5 or 6 years ago, there's always been those parallel shows, both of the same genre and not, that have been popular in their particular pocket of time, like your Space 1999. There was plenty before, and there was plenty that would come afterwards. And the difference is that kind of that almost unquantifiable quality that Doctor Who has of being so immensely culturally significant, transcending generations, and despite protestations to the contrary, it appeals to people who've got different tastes as well. The sci-fi, the fantasy, and the horror in this respect, but it also moved into the kind of the spy genre sometimes, the black comedy, or the kind of the student comedy. All those different aspects to it can be in the mix at any given time. And whilst Doctor Who can't be absolutely everything, all things to all people at the same time, it was malleable enough to stand above, I think, the trends of the time, to set the trends. That's what it used to do. It used to set trends and make these big swings and think, yes, so what if we are doing this? Yeah, we know it's Frankenstein. You know it's Frankenstein, but it's bloody good, isn't it? Are you going to stop us?
The other thing I think it did, Dan, and sort of it really echoes on that Corvin has just said, and what Charlotte is saying, is that it wasn't trying hard to be liked. It didn't want to be liked. Again, I'm sorry, but just to sort of compare it with recent Doctor Who, which is literally bludgeoning you into liking it, it didn't want you to like it at all. You look at character of the Doctor.
It's not emotionally manipulative.
Not in the slightest. It's just basically putting it out there and it's saying this is either going to resonate with you or it's not. The character of the Doctor, I think, is particularly interesting because actually, in many ways, the character of the Doctor in season 13, you could argue, is a difficult character to like because he is actually so alien, he's so dark, he's so dangerous. He whilst it's fairly clear that he's Sarah's best friend, it's difficult quite to work out how he is our best friend because that relationship between the Doctor and Sarah is so insular and so personal and private between the two of them. At times you almost feel like you are intruding on a friendship that is not anything to do with me and I have no rights to be part of. So why is it that I still get carried along by it and I still feel that these two people on screen at the moment are still my best friends as a 7-year-old? It's just in the sheer brilliance of their performances because actually the Doctor is a hard character to like through this season and yet we love him. Yeah. And so Tom and the writers are not afraid to make the part of the Doctor challenging for the viewer. Again, they're not trying to make you like the Doctor. They're just putting it out there and they're saying you're either going to like this or you're not. Again, unlike now where we're told you are going to love this person. It's a very, very different take. Yeah. And it was a dangerous and daring take to take back in 1975. And again, it wasn't pre-thought out. Again, this is the difference again with current Who. It's not thought out. It's not preconceived. They're just doing what they think is right and hoping that you will like it. And of course, millions did.
The scares aren't laboured either, though, are they, Gary?
In what
you
sense?
mentioned
What do you
like
mean?
Kondo being shot,
Yeah.
and that's a small moment, but it's not. There's no big build-up, and there's no great long speech afterwards over his over his corpse.
Yeah, like I said, the reason that kind of unnerved me is because
I think it's so disposable, Gary. It's just so throwaway.
The whole show is a construct, whereas as a viewer, whether we're 7 or the ages we are now, we give ourselves like to the narrative and know that everything is going to be all right and we can handle the unearthly stuff like watching the Zygons or the Crawls or whatever. But that was something else. Kondo getting shot by a gun and a bullet and having it was not that. It was more something you'd turn on the news for. But the one thing if I could, I just want to kind of piggyback on what Simon said to see if you agree with me, Simon, is that I think that I can imagine that even if a young child watching this could not sit there and define why do you like this Doctor, even though sometimes he feels alien to you and unnerves you at times, I think every child would still say, I feel secure with him.
I know
that he'll keep everybody safe at the end, and I would feel safe traveling with him, even though it might be scary. That indefinable, like Willy Wonka kind of magic that Tom brought, which is like a child could say, I couldn't spell out in an essay why I feel safe with that character. I just know that I do.
Yeah, but it's funny because in many ways the Doctor wasn't talking to the audience or to the camera in the way that, let's say, Ncuti Gatwa is constantly talking to the audience, begging them to like him. Tom's not doing that. He's just being Tom. He's delivering the lines beautifully and majestically. Sarah is our touchstone, if anything. But as I say, it still feels almost like an exclusive insular relationship that we're not party to, but we do. And I think you're right, Gary. It's because the stakes are so high through season 13. Arguably they've never been higher. The horror, as we've said, is never stronger than it is in this. And so the Doctor is, you're right, Gary, our security, because he is the one that makes it all right. So as a 7-year-old, I was sitting there terrified of the Zygons, of Sutekh, of the Crinoids, you name it. And so it was the fact that the Doctor was the one that made it all okay and meant that I, as a 7-year-old, could go to bed not scared anymore. That was somehow why I think I fell in love with the character, not because the character was lovable, but because you're right, he was putting it all right again, and it felt safe for me. I liked being thrilled and scared, but you obviously need to then be made to feel safe at the end of it all, and that's what the Doctor did.
Yeah. He'll give you a jelly. He'll give you a jelly baby, and it'll be all fine.
Yes. Well, we trust him because Sarah trusts him.
Good point, Sarah. Yeah.
So I think that's the vital role that she played as well for the audience. And there were times that she gets frustrated with him. I mean, in Pyramids, how callous he is. When what's his? I'm blanking on his name now.
Marcus Scarman when he
kills
Lawrence.
That's it. And he's so callous because he's got to move on because time's running out. He hasn't got the time. That's for Sarah to kind of deal with. But Sarah brings him back to that. But he always takes the time to explain that. And even in the TARDIS, when he shows Sarah what the future would be like, he's quite gentle with her, and so she can understand it, so we can understand it. He's not judging her for thinking of that human reaction of, well, let's just go away, we don't have to deal with this. He kind of holds her hand
and he lets it and Sarah, he lets that be her choice. He waits for her to make the decision. We have to go back.
He doesn't he doesn't tell her what to do. He doesn't patronize her. And again, I think some of that's been lost over recent years with recent companions.
And another thing, actually,
it's a cornerstone of modern. It's a cornerstone of modern drama. To be honest, it's not just modern Doctor Who that manipulates its audience in that way, or that spells things out.
You're right,
in that way.
It's a malaise of modern drama. You are quite right.
Yeah, it's only when you go back and watch vintage. When I say vintage material, I mean I look back at populist dramas from really not that long ago. Even stuff from the early to mid noughties wasn't really doing it. Take a look at dramas like Spooks, which I think I mentioned quite a lot, but that didn't do that. I know it was for an adult audience, but there are examples of shows aimed at a family audience that didn't do it either, or that certainly had a crossover sort of appeal. I don't think they believe that the audience are stupid as such, but sometimes I wonder if they believe the audience are emotionally stunted and need that kind of guidance. It's strange.
I think they have this idea nowadays that, like, Simon's right, they seem to be scared to death of if you're not liking a character, if you're not being given certain plot points really in your face. Things like subtext, sort of picking up cues outside of dialogue is sort of dying a little bit.
Do you think, Charlotte, do you think that, I mean, without going too much of down a rabbit hole here, do you think that's because each character in most modern dramas has become a kind of almost like an avatar? They view that this person in the cast represents that section of society or that group of people. That one represents that one. So they're not functioning parts of of the average script. They have this external purpose, this unnatural purpose that characters within a fiction shouldn't have, really, because it's not.
To be honest,
in the machinery.
I think they're very aware in the age of social media, in the age of sort of online, that people are more and more sort of not realizing they're watching characters on screen. They're almost seeing them as, oh, they're me. And I think that's not so much a demographic thing. I think that's just a general thing. This idea of you have to see something that you can identify. And that could just be life experiences. It can be anything. But the other thing is, and I noticed when I watched this classic in this sort of vein, of in modern Who, I feel like so much of the side characters instantly get on board with the Doctor, instantly do what he says, instantly sort of say, right, you're the person I'm going to listen to. And like in Planet, for example, for most of that story, the Doctor's being told to shut up and go into a room.
Yes.
He's not in control.
It's quite got on my nerves so much.
It's you've got all these other characters around him sort of going, we don't like you, we don't want to listen to you, you're just this annoyance. can we do what we want to do? And that's more compelling that
Yes.
that he has to work against that.
Yeah.
And that when he eventually does get a couple of the crew on side, you sort of go, look, he's managed to get at least some of them to listen to him.
Well, it's also compelling, Charlotte, because we know as the viewer that he is right and he is to be trusted, and so you're just you're getting angry because you think, come on, you just start listening to the Doctor, so you start to get engaged in the story then, simply because you know the Doctor is right and the one to be trusted, and they're in the wrong. So start listening to him. You're right. It's there's more value because it's harder won, isn't it?
And even with those expanded casts, I never once have ever wondered, for example, whether Lawrence Scarman, one of the Kralls, or any of the members of the team, the crew on Planet of Evil, are they straight or gay? How do they vote? What are they for
Didn't
lunch?
have any agendas, did they, Dan?
No.
Kondo would definitely have agendas today. Kondo would have issues and agendas. There'd be a whole episode about it.
One thing, though, Dan, I think what you're saying, and I think especially, I'm so glad that Charlotte mentioned it, is because you look at those stories, and this season, as I see the pictures you chose for each of the 6 stories, this season perfectly encapsulates to me all the reasons why I've never thought that 45-minute single episodes work for this show. Because look, you have Zygons, you have the side characters like the Duke and the Caber and all of that, the guy who owns the cottage, and then you have Pyramids of Mars, the descent of Prentice Hancock into kind of madness. You have the development in Pyramids of Mars of the relationship between Lawrence Scarman and his brother. So when he dies, we really feel the tragedy of it. You have in Android Invasion is the Doctor slowly putting together why things feel weird and out of place. In Brain of Morbius, you have like the sisterhood, and in Seas of Doom, you have the descent of Harrison, Chasen, and Madness. You have the evolution of Scorby into becoming a reluctant ally. You can't do any of that in 45 minutes and still serve the story and the Doctor. You lose all of that when you have such a truncated runtime, which is why this season, to me, just totally epitomizes why the serialized 4-part, 6-part works perfectly for this show, because the deeper we are into the characters and the development of the situation, the more invested we are in the story. We don't get any of that in the super fast run times of today.
So changing tack ever so slightly, but keeping on target. There's a reason now that TV is so, like, if you look at this now, I was watching and I was like, oh wow, these are all very, very well written, and the audience is not spoon fed everything now. I was listening to something earlier now, so there's now a remit that's come down, not BBC but higher ups elsewhere that's come down now, that all films, TVs, everything that's consumed has got to be. All the characters have got to spout loads of exposition because they're not made for a first viewing, they're made for a second viewing. They're supposed to be so done because they realize now that the audience, 90% of them is just going to be watching, scrolling their phone.
Correct.
So the TV show needs to be so done that people can still scroll and still pick up on what's going on.
Yeah.
And when you look at this, then you're like, oh wow, look, you're not spoon fed anything at all.
Yeah.
And so TV has changed dramatically.
Yes.
The characters now. So
yes,
a little sidetrack, but
no, you're correct. You're spot on, Luke.
You've got big streamers that have basically people who've worked for the big streamers have come out the last couple of years, and that's what Luke's referring to. Basically saying, we have been told you write it in mind that a child is looking at their phone. That's literally what writers are being told.
Yeah,
that's tragic for creatives, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Of course it is. If this season had been conceived and put together differently in any way, that those measurements of all those ingredients, the cast, the tone, the choice of stories, and the various focal points, I think that my life would probably have not turned out the way that it had, because it was this moment on screen here with the two mummies and the groundsman, the gamekeeper, being crushed between them, that stayed in my head for a decade and a half. all through my childhood, and that sort of kept me awake at night as well. I really do believe that this kind of switched me on to this kind of storytelling, not necessarily fantasy and science fiction, but that balance of feeling just scared enough, just that little bit unnerved, and yet knowing that it was probably going to be all right in the end anyway. This 8-disc box set also includes hours of special features. Some of them are previously released on the DVD set, on the DVD range. So there's documentaries and featurettes and audio commentaries and lots more. More about that after the break. We have pitched up in the hard shoulder of 1975 for our customary Type 40 ad break. We're going to go over and see what's going on the other side, everybody. For the Type 40 Live Doctor Who ad break special. These are from October the 21st, 1975. See if you remember any of these.
Got into a lot of trouble, Mum.
Granny, can we have some of your jam, please?
Of course. There's raspberry, I've a lovely black currant, pineapple, the tangerine's nice, and the strawberry. All right, is it?
You must have been busy in the summer.
Hartley's new jam. Why make your own?
Happiness is a cigar called Hamlet, a mild cigar from Benson and Hedges.
I keep trying to introduce Henry to more interesting food. A few weeks ago, we had a breakthrough of sorts. I was making him fettuccine when he stole the cheese. I mentioned this to the chunky people, and they impetuously rushed out and produced minced morsels with cheese before you impetuously rush off and buy some to make sure your dog likes cheese. Henry may be unique.
Minced morsels works out cheaper than your average canned dog food, even with cheese. Can you really save fuel and money? This free book shows you how, with controllable gas central heating. Two families living in identical houses with identical systems took part in a test to prove it. The Richardsons left things as they were. The Halls followed some of our suggestions, and they used nearly a third less gas.
It really worked, didn't it? We were very comfortable.
Pop along to your gas showroom for your free book. You'll be comfortably off with controllable central heating from British Gas.
Rich gringo, I got you covered.
Oh, I'm already covered with Pearl.
You feel more protected when you're covered with Pearl. Pearl Life Assurance.
Wrigley Spearmint Gum. There's a whole day's refreshment in a pack of Wrigley Spearmint. A pack of Wrigley Spearmint lasts the whole day through. Such fantastic value, it's so full of flavor. Morning until evening, it's the big fresh flavor chew.
Fantastic value, cause those 7 sticks last the whole day through.
Such fantastic value, it's the big fresh flavor chew. A pack of Wrigley Spearmint lasts the whole day through.
Welcome back to Type 40 Live on Rumble, X, YouTube and Facebook. The past, the present and the future of all things Doctor Who. But this time we've been looking at one very specific past October of 1975, around that time when season 13 was first airing there all the way through to the spring. And yeah, what does he expect? You don't touch those on the first date. Everyone knows that. We've got back here with the panel here at Type 40 Live, just making sure that we are all on deck or as close as we're ever going to be. How are we? Are we rested and recuperated and refreshed and ready for more? We are overrunning. We haven't done that for a little while, but it's season 13. If you can't do it with this, What can you? What can you? So yes, they've gone and added it to the collection on Blu-ray at long last. This has to be one of the most anticipated of the releases. But I think that each season of Doctor Who does, even that one has a lot of fans. So when people ask me, which season do you want to see next, or surely it's got to be season 13 next, I think I've been hearing that for about 2.5 years. It never particularly bothers me, Simon. But how did you feel when you heard it was coming up, or did you already know?
No, I didn't know. I honestly thought that they would leave this pretty much till the last, simply because it is such a fantastic season. I mean, they have near enough left to the last, but I think I was expecting it to be the final season to be released, simply because I think, as I say, it is so widely recognised as one of the best, if not the best.
It's 21 next, isn't it? Apparently.
That would make sense. That would make sense.
They're filming for it, aren't they? As always, there is masses of special features on this release, some of which are old favourites. I think we are at a point where you can sort of binge watch special features to various Doctor Who releases. Some of them are classics in their own right. We get all of those and lots of new ones besides. So I think Tom Baker's back to sort of remind us of what we get on here.
Doctor Who, the collection. All 6 stories newly restored for Blu-ray and packed with special features. Documentaries.
I'm here to answer your questions, really, so far away.
Ian was very clever and romantic and tortured and strong.
He was a darling man with the most lovely personality, so warm and kind in every way.
He was a man of mystery, and that mystery was part of him as well.
And I remember when I first met him, I actually thought, you shouldn't get involved with this person.
He's known as the Governor, the only Doctor Who director whose work spans the centuries. It's time to meet Graham Harper.
And Barry comes into my office and says, that's a list of directors I think could do it. And there were about 8 or 9 names, and mine was on the top.
As far as I know, because I'm rather incurious about other actors, there are about 10 Doctor Who's around. So the place is littered with them. Naturally, I avoid them like the plague.
I've brought a friend, your actual Loch Ness monster. Look, here he is, reunited at last.
Behind the sofa.
Oh, it's big.
That's making me twitch. It's all right, Maureen. Okay.
I want a finger like that. I'm going to need resuscitation at any moment.
Surround sound. Exclusive audio commentaries. Rare treats from the BBC archives. And much more. Doctor Who, the collection season 13 is available to pre-order now.
Where do you start with that little lot? Luke, you mentioned a few earlier on. You a fan of Behind the Sofa?
Yeah, I did. I think at a convention recently, Matthew Waterhouse was talking about doing one with Janet Fielding, and obviously they show a very, very condensed, cut down version, and Janet Fielding just has like no clue what's going on at all, and she's just like, "Oh," she's like, "Well, what's happening here?" And yeah, it just makes for good viewing. But the Doctor Who escape room is absolutely hilarious. I think on the first one, I think it's on Celestial Toymaker actually. I think they have Peter Purvis, Maureen O'Brien, and is it Bernie Summerfield, the person? I can't remember it. Big Finish actress anyway. And essentially, it's just like elder abuse, and it's the worst thing ever. It's all because Maureen O'Brien is, I think, deaf and she lip reads, but they get all their clues from K9, who famously is not evil. So it's an utter car crash, and apparently they were in it for like 4 or 5 hours, and it's only an hour escape. Oh. It's literally if you can find it, watch it. They're absolutely fantastic. So yeah, it's such a wealth of stuff on there as well. The Graham Harper thing I'm looking forward to as well. That's
so
a Sunday afternoon watch.
Charlotte, I understand that's your time up. It's pumpkin time. as you said the other day.
That's going to become a thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's certainly around Halloween time. Why not?
Yes, it's seasonal, so we'll have fun with it. No, but it's been lovely just to go back into classic and have a proper old chat. I do like when we have these streams, and it's been lovely to see the chats and people's memories also. So
yeah, thank you. We'll
good night.
we'll
We'll
see
see
you
you
next
soon.
week.
Night, Charlotte.
Bye-bye.
Night. Yeah, let's getting stuck into those special features. Again, I mean, it's an 8-disc set. There's a lot on there, just some of which was mentioned there with several friends of Type 40 are there, not least of all Toby Haydock. And Neil Cole's heavily involved with this set too, isn't he, Simon? You've been following that, the saga of the Skarissen.
Yes, absolutely. That's because Neil Cole came into possession of the original Skarissen puppet. I can't remember. I think that's Mike Tucker on the right-hand side of the picture. There's Neil on the left. I have a... Yes. Obviously, that's Mike with his hand up the new puppets that has been made for the for the new effects. But I think, as I recall, the Skarissen came into the possession of Mike Tucker, and Mike passed it on to Neil to restore. The condition of the Skarissen, the original Skarissen, bearing in mind it is 50 years old, was just absolutely terrible, just falling to pieces. There was barely any of it left, poor thing, because it was made out of foam rubber. There was just very little of it left. So Neil has restored it as best he can, and simple as that. There it is on the right hand side. They're sitting in front of Neil. And the new puppet on the left-hand side sitting in front of Mike Tucker. But I have to be honest, I've seen the sort of, the one thing I have seen from season 13 so far is the CGI, the new effects from Terror of the Zygons of the Skarissen puppet in that final scene at Thames. I'm all for them doing this, don't get me wrong. I think it's a great thing to have done. But from what I can see, they've absolutely stuffed it, in my opinion, because there's the moment where the Doctor is supposed to throw the homing device into the Skarissen's mouth. The Skarissen's shoots down in it, and that's what. Right, okay, so that's fine. Now, it never looked very convincing on the original version in 1975, because you just don't believe for a second that this homing device has gone into the Skarissen's mouth. Well, on the new version, from what I can see, they've done it so. I'm sorry, they've done it so badly that the Skarissen's head is actually completely the other way. The way the Doctor throws the homing device, there's no way it's going anywhere near the Skarissen. It goes straight over its shoulder. It doesn't go anywhere near its mouth. And all they needed to do was turn the puppet that way. It's just like,
like that.
Why didn't you do that? I can't. Mike Tucker, I praise Mike Tucker to the skies. He's an absolute genius, and I love him to pieces. So it isn't a criticism of him personally. It's just a criticism of the effect sequence. I just don't understand why they've done the way they've done it. You've just got to. They needed to make it so that you saw, for once, the homing device go into the Skarissen's mouth and make sense out of it. There we go. That's just me, mate.
Even Domgo is happy with this set. He says even the cover is the best. And we've got several
the cover's
enthusiastic comments here from Domgo in the live chat on YouTube.
The cover is magnificent. It's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
But I remember getting a message from Neil Cole. He's a friend of the show. He's been on more times than practically everybody else. Right from, I think he was on about episode 6 or 7 originally of the podcast. And I got a message from him saying, "You wouldn't believe what I've taken delivery of." I can't tell you anything about it. But
I remember this.
He was over the moon, wasn't he? And of course, eventually, in times. Oh, it was that. I think he said something along the lines of he'd taken delivery of something that was in a terrible state. But you could tell he couldn't wait to get started. It did turn out to be this.
And of course, he also took delivery of the only surviving mummy head from Pyramids of Mars, and that was the same. That was a super secret thing in that sort of got delivered to him, and he couldn't tell anybody about that for a while. And there's video out there of him sort of unwrapping the only surviving mummy head from Pyramids of Mars, that's now on display in the Allendale Museum still. But as is now the Skarissen head, they're both there now.
It's a genuine thrill to see somebody we know so well, who's always been so supportive of everything that we've done at Type 40, and part of our community, take part, be such an integral part of a production like this, Gary. And when I see, obviously, Simon's known Toby for a long time. He's been on the show several times. He's part of this range, always has been. So that's lovely too. But all the legends there as well, taking part in things like Behind the Sofa, which I think are nice bits of fluff, like that Gogglebox show on Channel 4. I think it's all harmless. Like, some people will go straight to them. Some people might not watch them at all, and I think it's all fine. I'll never look at this escape room feature, but I love that Luke loves it. I love that there's things for everybody on these things. Tom talks. We'd all love Tom Baker to be doing all these exhaustive commentaries and going back to locations, but we're very fortunate that he's as cognizant as he is, considering all the boozing he did in the 70s in particular, at the age of like 91, 92, and there he is still talking and still saying things that sometimes we've never heard before. And those interviews with the legendary figures like Graham Harper, Matthew Sweet's interviews, those long-form discussions, they're unmissable. Those are the things that I go to first. So there is something here for absolutely everybody. But I think the signature piece is always these featured documentaries from Chris Chapman and Moon Balloon. Was the first one the John Nathan Turner one? There was a Graham Williams one. So these are always absolute highlights, and often the things that I go to before absolutely anything else is Chris Chapman on stage at the BFI talking it up whenever it was, and published some pictures that I'd certainly never seen before of Ian Marter as Ian Marter. Even though he looks a lot like Harry Sullivan, we knew so little about him, and it's only when people like Chris take the time to do their research and put together an exhaustive, sensitive, long-form documentaries like this, Sarah, that we don't need. We're not entitled to know anything at all about these people, but finding out a little about their lives and their loves, their successes, their failures, their demons and their angels, it feels a great privilege, particularly when you think that Ian Marter's he passed away well over 40 years ago.
Yeah, it's just nice, because he is so well loved, and like Gary was saying, this is my favourite trio in terms of classic Who, and we didn't get much Harry, and it'd be lovely to learn more about him. And this is actually one of the things that I will watch first, even probably before the episodes, just to find out a little bit more about the man behind Harry. And I just think it's fascinating. I mean, I watched the Graham Williams one, and it's done so tactfully. So I'm expecting the same kind of thing with this. It's done with love. That there's nothing going to be like untoward, or there's going to be no agenda about it. It's just going to be pure love for Ian Marter. And I mean, Tom's always brilliant. Listen to. I actually think Tom could actually sell me anything. Just listening to him talk on that trailer, like, he could read anything. I would probably buy it, because he's just that brilliant.
He still sounds the same as well, Sarah. That's what amazes me.
Well.
He has his voice hasn't changed at all.
What I find myself looking at as well when I see this breakdown of special features, Simon, and this is almost entirely down to yourself and Stephen Noonan and Anthony Weiner and various others, is I'm now looking at these omnibus editions. So the omnibus editions of Pyramids of Mars and Brain of Morbius have been recreated as they would have been broadcast originally in the 70s. And there's a brand new one that's been put together for the Seeds of Doom just for this release. But those ones that were shown to eager children who didn't, I know repeats happen, but they weren't taken as given. But they were often the like the highlights of summers for Doctor Who fans.
Yeah.
And I've never seen any of them. And when I hear you guys talk about them, I think, okay, I'm going to watch that version now. And when it's a story that I know inside out, like Pyramids of Mars, if things are sort of slightly tweaked or moved around or edited or whatever, then I think I'll enjoy that on its own terms, Gary. It'll make a nice Sunday afternoon. I can pretend that
that's the one element that in all the sets that I haven't watched was the omnibus. I mean, I realized that from what I read on forums that version holds a lot of nostalgia for people. It's like, oh, the first time I watched this story was over Christmas on the cut down or whatever. So I mean, I can't tap into that particular nostalgia. And like you just said, Dan, it'd be weird. I would be sitting there going, wait a minute, that scene's missing. Wait a minute, that scene's missing. I wouldn't be able to have my nostalgia to kind of push me through that. But one of these days I'll get to them.
If you watch them, you just got to make sure you watch them in the summer on a nice sunny day, because that's when we watch them.
Oh, okay.
That's the whole point about those omnibuses. They're going to be watched on a summer's afternoon, about 5 o'clock on a summer's afternoon.
I mean, they did that like every year during the 70s, right?
Yeah.
Simon, they did an omnibus?
Yeah. You generally get about 2 to 3 stories. Sometimes they do them, they sort of strip them across the evenings. Certainly in the 80s, that's what they were doing across 4 evenings. But in the 70s, they were omnibus editions that they'd put out.
Stephen O'Neill in the live chat on YouTube says, I watched the special features first, then watched the stories on these Blu-ray collections. I think everybody's got a different way of, it's like how do you eat a box of milk tray or something like that? Some people just go straight for the nuts and then go, that kind of thing, isn't it?
I mean, I love special features on Blu-rays, and this is one of the things why I pray that physical media stays, because this is something that you obviously don't get with streaming services. Because I love all the documentaries, I love all the behind the scenes stuff. I love in particular when they put sort of the vintage TV stuff on, for example, Disney Time or Crackerjack. People in the chat have been talking about Crackerjack, which I remember so well. It's 5 to 5. It's Crackerjack. I just remember this so well as a kid. So I love seeing those old classic stories, and I love seeing it when they put little clips on of people like people turning up on the Generation game, the Bruce Forsyth Generation game, or stuff like that. I love seeing that, simply because for me, that's a massive nostalgia hit, because I just remember it like it was yesterday. I remember it so clearly, and it was as much part of my childhood as Doctor Who was. Because in those days, of course, what you've got to remember is, because there was very little Doctor Who apart from the episodes. There wasn't even a comic at this point. Okay, you could just about get a comic strip in TV Comic magazine, but there was nothing at all. We are spoilt these days with the amount of garbage that is shoved down our throats on social media to do with Doctor Who, and indeed any current popular media product. Whereas in those days you didn't get it. So to be sitting there watching the Bruce Forsyth Generation game, and suddenly a Dalek rolls across the screen, it was just all your Christmases came all at once, because you weren't expecting it. So it was just a delight. So I love, basically, long and the short, I love the special features, and I go to them in many ways first.
And I think we're blessed that, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think any television show in history has been exhaustively documented.
Correct.
As Doctor, and the fact that they're taking these decades-old seasons and still finding so many new things, whether it's pictures or interviews or facts or whatever, that we're all experts on one level or another, that it's, wow, I didn't know that. Every single time it's like, wow, that was news to me or whatever. The fact that they're still mining all of this gold every season from things that we thought were exhausted. It's like, okay, I know everything there is to know about that. And yet every single one of these releases, they keep finding new gems.
Yeah, comments in the live chat here from people who prefer the original special effects on all of these sets, despite the fact that new digital special effects are commonplace. I think they've been on more of these releases than they haven't. Have they been on every single one? I can't quite remember.
Yeah, I think they've put
on a
CGI on at least one story on every set. I think Dan.
I judge on a case-by-case basis, simply how I'm feeling at the time. And I like the fact that the option's there, Simon. I don't have to watch the new special effects, but they're there if I choose to. Or if I want to show the story to somebody else who's maybe a bit younger, might find them a barrier, then that option is there. And so as long as the original is preserved, it doesn't bother me in any way.
No, I would agree. It doesn't bother me at all that they put the CGI in. I have to be honest, I no longer like it, and I no longer I will watch it once out of curiosity, and it'll be once only, and then it's gone. I think it's largely pointless. I think the original special effects are what they are, and they are charming because of that. And certainly because I grew up with the episodes, I want to see them exactly as they are. I'm not interested. It doesn't matter how good you make the special effects now. Going back to the Skarissen, I'm always going to see that awful puppet, and it is terrible in the original effect. But it doesn't matter, because actually, truth be told, what they've done to replace it isn't that much better. So what's the point? I just can't. I really can't see the point.
I think there's been a sea change. I think there's been a sea change in the culture around this stuff, and I think it's partly to do with what Charlotte was pointing to. I think when they started putting new special effects on these stories, which was in the DVD range, obviously you could look back to the 90s. There was isolated VHS, but mainly in the DVD range. That kind of novelty value of the first sort of wave of box sets, and Star Trek, the original Star Trek series, doing that. I think now in the streaming age, there are so many classic, vintage, archive TV shows, some of which are considerably older than even classic Doctor Who, that are available to stream somewhere. They might have cleaned them up a little bit, but they haven't augmented them. There's no special effects on the majority of them, whether they're genre or not. They're cleaned up so that they don't look absolutely shit on a modern TV, but they are largely as they are. So I think that want to have that was established 20 years ago, I don't think it's an expectation that people necessarily have now. Even the people you may show this material to, I think now when people scroll through streaming sites, so they're aware that there's channels like Talking Pictures TV and Rewind, I don't think it phases people in the way that it did. And that's probably the drawback to it taking a decade for a range like this to complete, because times can change in the intervening time, and obviously new innovations can come along as well.
Maybe. I think that part of the problem I have with replacing effects, and to be completely clear, I have no problem with them doing this, as you say, Dan, as long as the original version's on there. If there are people out there that enjoy these CGI effects, brilliant, well done. I have no problem in them appearing, but they're of very little interest to me beyond a slight amount of novelty value to watch, for, as I say, for once only. But part of my reason for struggling with them is because I kind of think, well, at what point, where do you draw the line? Truth be told, every single shot of every television program, every film that has ever been made is faulty in some respect. I could even take Blade Runner, that I think is one of the greatest works of art of all time, and I could still say, well, if they just put the light a little bit differently there, and they've just done that slightly. So where do you draw the line? Is this not gilding the lily to me? We could sort out so much stuff. We could stop that set wobbling. We could make sure that where they're filmed in studios, and there's clearly just in the 1970s, there's clearly just a backdrop just outside a sheet of plastic that's representing a window. Well, that looks really unconvincing. Are we going to replace that? Where do you draw the line? So to me, you draw the line by not doing it in the first place. Just put the episodes out as they were, but that's for me personally. As I say, I'm not criticizing it. Do them and let people enjoy them.
That's why, as long as there's options, everybody can come out of it a winner.
Yeah,
tell George Lucas that.
Well,
there you go, Luke. Spot on.
I respect that position, Simon, and I would say like maybe 98%. I share it. There's a couple 3 stories for me now to where the new effect version has become my default version.
Oh wow! Okay.
For example,
good.
like Kinda, because of the effects at the end, don't pull me out of the story.
You're right, Gary. That's the one that I
keeps
would
me
pull
invested.
up and agree.
I
with
would
you on.
add Earthshock because I really like the scene of the freighter actually crashing rather than hanging just still in space. That kind of keeps me invested in the story, and also Ark in Space, just because I love the new model of the Ark. So those are about, and that's I think the only thing they changed. So those stories actually keep me pulled in. But those are the rare exceptions, Simon. For the most part, I'm right there with you in terms of your perspective.
Lee mentions a big difference here in the live chat. It's how they use special effects to try and make, and they have fallen into this trap. Rather than to serve the story that we're watching at that time, to try and stitch them in or make them look like they are belonging to whatever version of the series is current in the here and now. How they try to make it look like Russell T Davies Doctor Who, that really annoys me more than anything. Yeah, they shouldn't attempt to slide it next to something else from decades into the future. I think that misses the point of the appeal of the older series on its own terms. I don't think that's it. That was intended in any way, and I don't think, and it's not an expectation that anybody has when they press the play button. We know we're watching older things, and so would anybody who would be watching it with us. Unfortunately, this release does seem to have been mired in somewhat of a storm over the last 24 to 48 hours, which does seem to be escalating, and it concerns artificial intelligence. Now, when the trailer was premiered for this particular release, which I think was around March time, July, sorry, it was around July time, there were people raised their hands then and found some of the sequences in the trailer a little conspicuous, as if they'd been given a coating of something that we couldn't quite put our fingers on, that had given it that kind of plasticky look that some of the more cheap, I hate to use the word cheap, but cheap AI, how that can look. This is technology and innovation that is still in its infancy, Luke. I know that you worked with AI. It's coming on in leaps and bounds practically by the week. So I feel that whilst that is exciting, it does open up a huge amount of possibilities. I think that it does mean, because it's changing so quickly, one has to be very sure that your grasp of it in the here and now is sound and measured, but an awareness of where it could go in record time should also be at the forefront of a creative's mind as well. And I'm not entirely convinced that they've been successful in doing that, in employing the use of AI, not just in a restorative way to restore the episodes, but as I understand it, for the first time, it's been used in a generative way as well. Generative AI, which is because restorative AI is simply to restore the original materials to the looking the best they could possibly look, but as they originally were. Whereas generative AI, is it that simple, Luke? It introduces new elements.
Yes, yeah. I work with AI every day on my job. That is what I do. Unfortunately or fortunately, and I will show you an example of a video I made yesterday with one prompt of a button, and I kind of give away the company I work for, but and that is you see.
Oh, hold on.
Down.
Hang on. Give me a moment. I can't quite get to you. There you are.
Oh, there you go. I'll put it back to the start. There you go. So this is a video I made. Oh, my screen's blurry. Of course it is.
We can kind of see it.
Yeah, but I work with AI every day, and it's what they've done is to just clean up the image. And I think I read somewhere that this wasn't a conscious choice by the team restoring it using AI. Apparently it was a remit from the BBC that they wanted to use AI in this way. It wasn't from the team that had been doing it previously. This is a remake from the BBC. Is what I got told earlier and what I read. So I don't know how
Yeah, that makes sense to me, to be honest, Luke.
Yeah, that's so. But yeah, no, it is. Like I watched Terror of the Zygons, and the first couple of minutes, you're like, "Ooh, everyone does have that slightly uncanny valley-esque look." But then after a couple of minutes of it, you're like, "Oh, okay," and it kind of just goes by the wayside. You kind of just forget it because the story drags you in, and you're not kind of looking like it. And someone said Sarah looked like a ghost, and I was like, "Yeah, Sarah did look." I think my missus come in and caught it. And she was like, "She looks like she's wearing a bit of a mask," and I was like, "Yeah, she does actually." But yeah, it's how they've used it on apparently is it the Android invasion is the one that everyone's picked up on, and I haven't gone that far yet, so I haven't seen this. So I can't judge.
Luke, why?
I thought it was fine.
Why would you think, Luke? Because I don't know. Why? What did they think was deficient in the original that AI would bring that couldn't have? That was more than just the, as Dan was saying, just restore what it was like originally. Clearly, they must have thought even that would be deficient, so they had to do the generative, right?
From my understanding, they didn't have the original film prints, the original negatives left of the stories. So as they did with other episodes from other seasons, so they couldn't. So even if they upscaled them and cleaned them up, it would still look like absolute dog. So they used a generative AI to try and bring it up and match it. That's why I've heard is why.
I'm not convinced, unfortunately, that that's correct. That season 12, it will exist. Season 13 exists, as far as I'm aware, and I will check on this to make sure I'm not talking absolute rubbish. But as far as I'm aware, season 13 exists on the original broadcast transmission tapes, just like season 12 does, season 14 does, so on and so forth. So unless, and I am happy to be corrected on this, as I understand it, the source material is still exactly the same.
So it's the film, so the stuff that they shot on film, so the exteriors. So the studio.
You're talking about film specifically.
So the studio stuff isn't as bad, and it's not noticeable realistically. But where you notice is when it's shooting out on location, and that's when all the film grain has started to disappear.
But the reason I'm not contradicting you at all, Luke. All I'm saying is it makes no sense because the original transmission master tapes exist, and so there's no film degradation on those because they're not using film. It's the transmission tape on PAL 2-inch tape, and so yes, you're correct, Luke. If they'd got film that was degrading, yes, you would have problems, but they're not. They're working with the as far as I understand, and I'm happy to be corrected, with the original transmission tapes into which the film sequences will have been cut, and so you know what I'm saying?
I agree. Which is why
I fear that if what you're hearing, so it's not contradicting you. You've heard this, and I would say that's a little. I think that sounds a little bit of like smoke and mirrors of a reason as to why we've got to do this. I fear, and I pray I'm wrong with this. I fear actually, it sounds like it might just be. As Dan, you alluded to a minute ago, a cheap and an easy way of restoring these episodes just by putting them.
I want to make myself clear. I don't know if it was cheap. My argument
me neither.
My argument is that it looks cheap.
But, I want to make myself clear. Firstly, I haven't seen any of the episodes apart from the few clips that I've seen on YouTube that have highlighted what people think are problems. So I am saying what I'm saying very, very guardedly because I haven't seen the footage, and so the controversy that is out there might be completely and utterly overblown, and all this is completely unnecessary. And actually, it all looks fine. It's possible that is the case.
And I have seen, for example, the quote that Luke, and here's an example of the outdoor film material that Luke is talking about. Now, what Lucas just said, what I've been able to find out over the last 24 to 36 hours, the scant information actually available. Apparently, I can't actually confirm this because I don't know where it's meant to have been said, but apparently some of the restoration team that work on these releases have alleged to have spoken publicly about this, and just as Luke said, they've made the claim here, just the exact words that I've been sent. They did not have the original film in the archive, so they used other sources, even contacted the person who has the film, but it was fading away, so they had to use technology. I don't know where this quote has come from. I don't know which of the team has said this to whom. So I'm going to continue to follow that line, maybe see if we can get some sort of quote, because obviously we do have contacts too on the restoration team and the BBC studios who work on these. So maybe someone will give us some sort of definitive answer, because I don't think it's an unreasonable question for people to ask, if particularly when they've spent 50, in my case, 55 quid on this, and I'm getting a product that this is not this potentially. It's okay, even if this release is isolated out of the however many, like 20 that have come out, even if it's isolated, to me, this represents a major differentiation from the product that I've been buying for the last 7.5 years. And the fact that an unrestored version or an ungenerative AI-assisted version is not on this box set in the same way that you can choose between the original special effects and new special effects, but both versions have been remastered, both have been restored.
Yeah.
But you can't when it comes to the generative AI. There's only the generative AI versions on there, and not the equivalent of what would have been put out on DVD, which, in my opinion, particularly with Terror of the Zygons, was perfectly fine.
Well, I'd go even further than that, Dan, simply because on some of the Pertwee releases, as you may know, on those they put two entirely different versions of the same story on. Things like Frontier in Space is one of them, where they would put they have put the original DVD version, which was kind of the unrestored version kind of thing, and then the Blu-ray restored version. So that if you prefer, Curse of Peladon is another one where they've put kind of the original DVD version and the restored Blu-ray version of it. So this isn't an unprecedented. What I'm saying is
it's reasonable.
Well, yeah, and what I'm saying is it's not an unprecedented thing to have done. It's quite reasonable, Dan, to have, if they are going to do something that is quite stringent with regards to the effects that it's changed, the effect that it is creating on the picture. I think it's quite reasonable to say, but here is the kind of the DVD version, just in HD. This is the DVD version, it's in HD. So if you don't like this kind of and I still question, I genuinely, this honestly is not a complaint. I genuinely want to know what is different about season 13 that means, for example, with Terror of the Zygons, they have to go back to a piece of film that's falling to pieces to fit it in when you've got the original transmission broadcast tape. And so that would have the film inserted in it, just the same as it is on so many of the other releases. I don't understand what this requirement is to go back to what you seem to be saying is terrible quality film. I don't, and then putting AI on it to try and restore it. I don't get it.
Simply because the original grade and the original material would have been high spec at the time. If it's not up to it, then go back to material that is up to it, where you maybe don't have to do this to. I've got a quote here that again has come to me secondhand. I've been able to track this down, who he said this to or when. But apparently, according to our sources, Peter Crocker has claimed that Peter Crocker's worked for the restoration team for a number of years, hasn't he? And he's fairly open.
I think he's done all the picture restoration on all of the Blu-ray box sets, I think.
So apparently he's claimed that he had wanted to include the unrestored versions on the sets too, but has claimed that ultimately whoever makes these decisions did not take up that option. So Peter Crocker is claiming that decision was made out of his hands to include both versions. So obviously we will pursue a couple of lines of questioning about this, because I think this does seem to be bubbling over. A lot of people are really irritated by this, are put off by what they've seen so far. The trailer, I took it at face value. trailers, clips packages. They could, just on YouTube, it could have been. It may not be looking its best because YouTube compresses and twists and turns and does all sorts to the things, doesn't it, Luke? But to get your
massively
high spec, almost boutique level 8-disc box set that's cost you 55 quid in now the run up to Christmas, to receive that in the post and find that you're met with images like this, I think it's more than a little off-putting. Several people have been going off on one on social media, including people who are usually very calm and collected, not as obnoxious as we are. Dr. Alex Noonan said, I watched Saigon's Part 1 and the sheer amount of cheap AI over it made it borderline unwatchable. With respect, these sets should be definitive remasters, not a chance to tinker with new tech. It felt like a gut punch to realise I traded in my DVDs for this. I won't be trading in mine anytime soon until we get some sort of idea about where this is going. Now, Peter Crocker did respond to this gentleman's inquiry, just with a simple, your opinion is noted. Thanks for the feedback.
Yeah. I feel go on, sorry, Ted, carry on, Dan.
There's no fat on that. It's perfectly polite, but I don't know.
I do fear that Luke could well be right here, and I have a feeling that this is probably something that's come from above rather than something that the people doing the picture restoration, Peter Crocker in particular, would be pushing for. I mean, interestingly, and I've actually managed to find, I've managed to go back and find an exchange that I had with Peter Crocker on X, Twitter as it was at the time, a couple of years back, when I actually sort of highlighted a video that was using some AI technology, and I sort of highlighted it and said, "Oh, this might be an interesting idea to use to present alternative versions of Doctor Who episodes in an alternative kind of a HD." And I'm quoting from Peter Crocker, who says, "I'm afraid it looks rather plasticky to me. Sorry. We've looked at AI upscaling algorithms and they're not a tool we can use yet. First rule of restoration is use the best source." That was Peter Crocker saying that it looks plasticky. I am concerned because when this was highlighted to me that this season 30 might be a problem, I thought, no, surely people are exaggerating. I have to be honest, some of the shots that I've seen, the word plasticky is about the best way to describe some of what I'm looking at.
Looking back to the DVD range, I remember them innovating as they went along. Vidfire, when that was first employed on, it was certainly a couple of years into the range, and they took a bit of a gamble with that, and it really, really paid off. But that was cutting edge developments in many respects. And some people didn't like that. Some people rejected that, Sarah, on principle. But it was, I mean, obviously times were different then. There was no social media, or it was very early social media. So people couldn't literally get it in the post one morning and be kicking off by the afternoon directly to the people whose names are on the credits. It's a different environment, I know. But my feeling is, I'm going to say, I'm not going to shoot first, ask questions later. Let's put it that way. I'm going to take our time, watch some of the material, get a better idea. Because Luke's been very honest about the positives and the negative. I'm going to see what I think. But at the moment, my instinct is telling me, Gary, that a line has been crossed here, and that this isn't restoration.
Oh, I agree with you. It's not. It's manipulation. I mean physical. I mean, you know what manipulate. I mean, that
yeah.
But what I keep coming back to in my head is that, and I haven't watched my set yet, but whatever the real reason is, whether we've been given the real reason and it's just not enough for people, or whatever, I just find it so tragic that of all the sets that this would be used on, it would be the set that people have been most anticipating since the day that this range was announced. This was the set that people were most fanatically looking forward to, and for this to happen on this particular set is just beyond.
It's disappointing.
Yeah. Genuine question. Is there an element to this then that, do you think the people that are doing these, are they getting to that point where they're rushing to get these done? Because I don't understand what the rush is.
My feeling, Sarah, would be no. I genuinely don't think they are rushing. Is there a possibility that is it BBC Studios that is the overseer that puts these out? Is it still BBC Studios? Is that what they're called this week? I can't remember.
But I don't think anybody has been inserted in between the leaves, shall we say? I don't think anybody.
I wonder. I mean, is it possible that BBC Studios have just squeezed the budget? I think that's possibly more likely than that they're rushing them through, Sarah. And as I say, I really do want to make clear that everything that I have said, this is not meant as a criticism. Certainly of the restoration team, who I think have done a brilliant job, and we you know, they're legends in their own lunchtime. You know, we hail them.
Yeah.
You know,
Simon, I had every faith in them. And
I still do.
As regards the trailer, I thought, well, there could be any one of a number of explanations for that trailer. So I didn't see any reason to.
I honestly, in all honesty, with all of this, I actually feel very, very sorry for the people like Peter Crocker and the restoration team, whoever's worked on this, because they must be absolutely gutted at this moment in time that we're all talking about this when we should be talking about how brilliant the box set is. And I would hope that this wouldn't dampen their enthusiasm to do the brilliant work they've done up until now. And I'm labouring this point because it's important to labour that we love the work that has been done by these guys. Absolutely. As you said earlier on, Gary, you know, the Doctor Who is Doctor Who fans. We are the luckiest on the planet because of all these kind of genre shows. Doctor Who is the one that has had the most love, the most money spent on it, the most restoration worked on it, and so now it's beginning to sound. I feel like I myself am beginning to sound a bit churlish by saying, "Oh, it looks a bit plasticky," because actually, hell, we're really lucky to have season 13 out on Blu-ray, looking great. So I don't want anybody to get the wrong impression that we're just moaning. It's just. It's just a little bit disappointing, and I would hope that things will go on pause for a moment after season 13, and people maybe take stock and recalibrate and look at this again and say, did we make the right decision? Whoever it is that made that decision, and I suspect it's not the restoration team that made that decision.
Yeah, I don't think that anything that we've said could be construed as casting aspersions on the Herculean dedication that this team has had since day one in getting all of this. And if there's a questionable decision in the past, they've explained why things had to be done. For me, my first instinct on the very short Peter Crocker reply that Dan posted, the little one-line thing, my first response to that is there's probably a lot that he wants to say but can't.
Yes, of course, quite rightly.
Yeah, but again, this is beyond monumental. I mean, I can't come up with the right adjective to explain, you know, what I think is the level of their accomplishment over the course of this series.
And we're so lucky in that respect.
Yeah.
There are several disgruntled customers in the live chat, and I do feel that that's how BBC Studios have got to look at this. I mean, maybe there'll be comprehensive answers issued in plain English too. I think people would be understanding if it's as simple as it sounds, but Sarah looks like a ghost. That's going to take me out of the episodes, and to be honest, I'm going to keep my DVDs. Thank you very much.
You mean Sarah?
No.
You know, so I can look at this perfectly reasonably as a commentator and as a creative myself, but I know how I'll react if it takes me out of the episodes.
Yeah.
I am now.
Well, if you're distracted, that's what it is, Dan. It's if you get distracted by something.
I'm approaching my box set with a degree of trepidation that not only do I find unfortunate, but also, if I wanted to, it could really wind me up because this thing's cost me 55 quid.
Well, but also, Dan, in many ways, I think it's just a degree of frustration simply because we have been so spoiled by these Blu-ray box sets. On this show alone, we have hailed these Blu-ray box sets till the heavens, and so I think we're just all feeling suddenly a little bit
big time for 8 years,
because we've been spoiled. We have been spoiled by this stuff, and now suddenly it's just a bit.
Well, the risk, Simon, though, is that, and maybe BBC knows this, maybe they don't, is that we have seen these stories so many times. We could like close our eyes and sit back and probably replay the entire story in our head without even watching it on TV. So we know every line, we know every look, we know every grain on the thing. So if something distorts from that, we'll pick up on it like that, because these things are so close to us. And that's the risk they run by doing something like that.
But following that, though, Gary, the BBC and everybody above, they should know now what Doctor Who fans are like.
Yeah.
We are obsessive. We know, we know.
We're crackers.
Do this to Space 1999 fans, Sarah.
It's so if something's brilliant, we're gonna let you know. If something's, less than brilliant,
you're right,
we're gonna let you know. I mean, I'm concerned that I don't want fans' ire to be directed at the wrong people. So I have some,
correct. That's why, really, Sarah, we could do with actually an official statement on this to actually lay this to rest.
What do all of you think of this comment? I mean, I'm not sure how to.
I just want to make it clear. Type 40 will be reaching out to people over this, so through appropriate channels in an appropriate way. But yes, our friend Lee in the live chat says it's not overblown. He's got a friend who's thinking of selling his Blu-ray collection over it.
Why?
30 days, it's raw.
Why would I don't understand why you sell your Blu-ray collection, because everything up to this point is just brilliant and breathtaking, and I love every single box set that I've got. So I don't know why you'd sell your collection just because of one box set that maybe isn't quite what you hoped it would be. And so, to be clear, however, whatever season 13 looks like when I eventually get it, I'm still going to be happy to have it on Blu-ray, and the extras will be great. And do you know what I mean? So it's not all bad. It's not all bad.
No. Corvin says, I think the argument on X is something along the lines of believing the AI upscaling is necessary to accommodate modern TV screens. I haven't seen that argument, Luke. I don't think that hangs together at all. But what were you going to say?
No, I was going to say, I think the AI upscaling personally, because I work with AI every day. I think as long as I haven't come across much generative in it, to be honest, I haven't been looking for it. It does look slightly airbrushed. I will admit.
It does.
It does look slightly airbrushed. I think a simple way they could have fixed it is just added. Obviously, do the AI upscale, get it looking nice, and then maybe just put a bit of film grain over the top, a fake film grain over the top. And a lot of people probably would have been like, oh, well, the grain's there. But so it would have probably taken the edge off slightly and just blurred the lines a little bit, where people would be like, oh, okay. So that would have been like maybe a little trick to do it. But it's when it comes into generative then, and then that's when people are going to be really, really going for it, because then you are replacing certain things with certain things.
Well, I could be wrong with this.
There's people voicing their disappointment on various social media platforms, including creative people like Pip Madeley, who has put this video together.
Yeah, I've seen it.
We can see it's not an unreasonable question under the circumstances. Pip has gone to great lengths here to demonstrate.
See, that's worrying. If the AI is doing stuff like that, I don't want it to be doing that.
No,
I just don't want it to be doing that. And it might sound picky and pedantic, and okay, I'll live with that, but I just don't want it to be doing this kind of stuff.
Because it's not Tom, is it?
No, Tom's bottom teeth are not like that. So, and you're filling in the gap in the just no.
Whoever is responsible, I'm not on board with this at all. This isn't the product that I wish to buy, that I feel like I have been sold on for nearly 8 years. So whilst I wouldn't sell my box sets over this, I would like an answer, and I want to know what their standpoint could be from this.
I'm
point
very
on
worried by that.
I...
That particular shot worries me enormously. A finger's missing. This shot that worries me enormously.
This one is.
This doesn't even look like Liz Sladen.
Wow.
Yeah, this one's bad.
I mean, if this is genuinely taken from the Blu-ray, and we're not being hoodwinked here with this video, I am concerned. I am concerned.
Thank you to
I don't. In all honesty, I don't have a problem with something like professional pointing, because to me that is actually increasing the detail. What I have problem with is where you're taking detail away. That's what worries me. Or adding something that wasn't there in the first place. This, that just why have we got white specks there? I guess I can live with that kind of stuff.
I think most of it is that kind of stuff,
and I can live with that. Luke. Can you live with that?
Yeah, I could. But the stuff with like the teeth filling is clearly reading obviously the lines of the teeth and then trying to obviously
it's correcting them.
But yeah, it's correcting it ever so slightly. You can still see it is a little bit of a gap there. The straightened on the bottom is a bit straightening, but there's certain bits of it. Sarah's face is awful.
Sarah's face is worrying.
That worries me. I was like, I can't defend.
It just it literally looks like something nightmarish. She does not look like Liz Sladen. Simple as that.
No,
we'll see. I'll see.
Some of it is fine. A lot of it is just sharp.
And I absolutely am reserving my judgment until I see it for myself. So this comes very guardedly.
Yeah. I think the word that somebody used before, which to me is doing all this, which is disappointment. I think the fans they've waited so long, and anything less than what they anticipated is just, I think the disappointment feels crushing, and that seems to me to be what is.
But that's our bad, Gary. In many ways, I
don't mean us.
You know what I mean? Because we've been spoiled, and that's why I feel this almost sounds churlish, almost. Don't know. Tricky one.
I don't think you were churlish, Simon, because like you said you're going to wait and see for yourself and make your own individual judgment.
But I really would like to hear from somebody, whoever it is. I'd really just like to hear what the truth behind this is. I think
let's take. Well, what we can do, our part of it, what we do as commentators and live streamers, that we can find out what people are thinking here in the live chat. Matthew Pounder says certain scenes resemble the World Distributors painted annual covers. Stephen O'Neill is glad that he kept his DVDs as well. We've got some several more comments as well. Lee adds, if I wasn't paying 55 quid for it and getting less quality with it, I am going to complain, and people should complain. I think I'd give it another few days and see what's said. I think people have every right to express dissatisfaction and or disappointment.
I'd hate this to turn into some sort of witch hunt, though. That
exactly.
And that suddenly the Blu-ray range sort of becomes tainted, or the BBC suddenly think, "Whoa, hold on, we're just not even going to bother finishing this range because those bloody Doctor Who fans do nothing but moan." I really want us to be everybody, the fandom, to be moderate on this, and let's just let's go steady. I feel
Matthew Pounder sticking to the originals as well.
Yeah, fair point.
Several people just keeping their DVDs for the time being. Corbin said he may have seen something about this on Gallifrey Base. I've been on Gallifrey Base for a long time. And problem being, says I don't blame Peter Crocker. I'm not going to put the blame on one man. He was given next to no budget and no time to get things done. The BBC should be throwing more money and resources at him.
Yeah, when they can see how popular this range is, they should be putting more resources as money into it, as problem being says, rather than less, if that's what they've done. And again, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong.
Right.
I mean, these Blu-ray collections, they're the lifeblood of the brand.
Yes.
Now more than ever. So you thought they'd be throwing everything.
Correct. Don't if they are cutting corners, and that, as I say, it is a guarded if from me. If they are, why at this point are you cutting corners? Why? BBC Studios, I'm talking about.
So late in the range, and using an innovation that so few of us, even the people who work in the industry, are constantly being surprised by, are struggling to keep up with, because the it's all happening so quickly. And so a group of we don't know if extra people were contracted to work on this, but if it's a group of gentlemen who are learning it from the ground up, we know so little about it. And I don't know. I just feel that we should have been informed. I feel that it makes it a different product. That's
well, it does.
In the same way that that the Daleks, Doctor Who, the Daleks in color, and Doctor Who, the War Games in color, being colorized like that. I think it makes it. They haven't put that out, the War Games in color, in a season 6 box set, and not included the black and white version. And I think that that's in relative terms, that would be the equivalent of doing this.
Yes, it would. And as I say, I do think a really clear delineation needs to be made between picture restoration, which is basically putting back to its best possible quality and correcting faults that might exist within the film, where there are dropouts from videotapes, where there are scratches in the film. Of course, that is due to be corrected simply because it wasn't there in the first place. And so picture restoration truly should be just putting it back to how it should have been originally, without any faults with regards to, as I say, film dirt, that film artifacts, that kind of thing. Using something like AI to actually change something, the line of somebody's teeth, fingernails, that's a very different thing, because you're now actually changing the picture rather than restoring the picture. And that's where I just feel I'm just a bit mystified by how this has come about. Did they not? Well, maybe there was a lack of realization on the part of whoever was doing this, that actually what was happening was teeth were changing, fingernails were suddenly missing. Is it possible that they didn't clock what was happening here?
It takes that, whatever that original footage is, wherever it's come from, whatever state it's in, it pins it as an underlayer, in a sense, something that is worked on the top of, and so that what we're actually getting as an end product is a simulated recreation of it that just uses it as a reference point, as something to plot to.
Well, in effect, it's a CG. In effect, as I understand it, ultimately it's a CGI image then of the original material. That's what it is. It's
Once
a CGI
it goes through
image.
that process, it ceases to be the pure source.
Yes, absolutely. And that's well, we wait
I
and
know
see.
very, very little about AI, Luke, but this is my gut instinct. Is that that it's a different product, and let's see what we can find out over the next week or two. But the disappointment of the live chat is palpable.
It seems to be, maybe there was issues with the quality of the master tapes back in that they have, which seems a bit weird because obviously we got the DVDs out already. I think people are jumping on this thing that it is the majority is the location stuff looks worse than the studio stuff. The studio stuff looks fine from what. Terror of the Zygons, I was like, oh, it's mostly when they're out on location.
I'm genuinely intrigued, Luke. I don't understand why it is that when they're out on location. I'm fascinated. I'm intrigued to know.
Luke, since you're so immersed in this on a day-to-day basis, I'm really looking forward to, after you've seen the set, your perspective on it, because this is like your bread and butter you deal with every day.
Thank you again.
Very interested.
It's fascinating, and it's good to have your input as well, Luke, as somebody who works with AI. Thanks again to Pip Madeley for that video. Full credit to him. And we'll keep our eyes on this developing story. I don't imagine that Doctor Who fans are going to be letting this go anytime soon. Why should they? But let's wait and see what happens. Hope it hasn't wiped the smile off anyone's face, because there is plenty to still enjoy in the set. Let us know what you think. The conversation will continue on. Doctor Who The Collection Season 13's limited edition box set is now available with all the usual retailers. A standard release will follow in around, usually about 12 to 18 months, Simon. Is that the window? Around that? I don't know.
I know that in the U.S., I think the U.S.
Sorry, Dan. Yeah,
is
sorry. I
caught up,
just.
but I think the UK is kind of behind, isn't it?
My system froze up there. Sorry. Yeah, it's about 18 months between the limited edition and the standard editions. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope you guys have bear with us, because we have had a couple of technical problems here at StreamYard on this edition of the show, but we've battled through. I think that there's been delays here and there. So that's season 13 for now, but we'll keep looking at this new story and the reactions as they evolve, and obviously any statement that could be put out by BBC Studios. I certainly don't think it should fall to any individual to have to answer for a decision made by a greater body.
No, I agree.
The more I think about it, Sarah, the more I think that it was probably quite good of Peter Crocker to step into what can be a bit of a lion's den.
I agree.
I think he's a very brave soul, actually.
Yes, Peter shouldn't need to be commenting on this at all. I would say this just needs to be a statement, a corporate statement from the organisation rather than from any one individual, I feel.
Get spinning those discs and find out for yourself. And by all means, let us know what you think.
Perfect. Just the person I need to see. Firstly, loving the outfit, by the way. Really suits your hair. Secondly, the universe is falling apart. I don't have much time today. I need to shoot off. I need to do something. But by all means, this is imperative. Watch Type 40. Type 40 podcast is where you need to be. Seguida!
More fireworks after all, more illuminations than we could ever have dreamt of, and so much to think on, as well as plenty to watch in that brand new season 13 box set. Come and tell us all about it. Come and say hello as ever through our social media, Instagram and X at Type 40 Doctor Who, or you can chip in over in the Type 40 Facebook group as well. It's just one of dozens of topics currently being eagerly debated by generations upon generations of Doctor Who fans right there on the wall right now. So if you are still a Facebook user, go over there and tap Type 40 into the search bar and find us and jump in with both feet. You can leave us a comment too on SpeakPipe through the wonders of your smartphone there. So any suggestions, any comments, any requests for topics, anything you want to add at all, join us through SpeakPipe. The link is in the description. As always, as for season 13, more coverage over on our podcast. So over at type40.podbean.com, you can get our feature-length review of Planet of Evil to tie into this Blu-ray release. A few of us gathered together to look in depth at this rather forgotten story, this four-parter from season 13. And you get to find out what each of us thought and what how we rated it out of 5 as well. So that's all more fun and lots more darkness there on the Type 40 podcast. And there's our Film is Fabulous special from last week too, where we responded to that exciting news and our support, stated our support to our unreserved support of Film is Fabulous themselves. More on that story as it unfolds as well. What an exciting time, for better or worse, Sarah, to be a Doctor Who fan.
Well, swings and roundabouts,
Very diplomatic.
We're well dizzy here at Type 40 Live on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and X after how many years and how many episodes? Just when you think you've seen and heard it all, Gary.
It's not one thing, it's another. But, I think, as we've all said, I mean, words... At the end of the day, words can't express my gratitude for the last few years, the efforts that the team has done to bring us these glorious stories. So,
correct.
This is a developing story. We'll have to wait and see. And just really quickly, I just have to say that one of the reasons why I love, Dan, the drop-in that you used before you came back to us is because I'll be going along during the week, like something totally unrelated, and Sigile will jump into my head. So I love that. I love that
guy. Richard Brooks says, bless Peter Crocker. He's not to blame for these issues.
Yeah.
And problem being adds, I can see yet another disc replacement situation coming down the line.
I can't.
I don't know.
No. I'll put some money on that. I don't think it's likely because I don't think they'll recognise this as a fault. It was a decision that was made, and it would take a lot of money to basically reconstruct it all and put it back. No.
What you're saying is the difference is that we have received the product that they intended to serve us.
Absolutely, it's not a mistake. There's no, when discs have been replaced in the past, it's because there is a disc error. There's no disc error here. Yeah. They're not going to remaster all those episodes again. Not a chance. Not a chance.
You know,
unless
I'll guarantee you that on the forums, whatever, there will be an outcry for them to fix this for the U.S. release. It, as you, Dan, said, it won't happen, but that will not stem the outcry that there will be for that.
Won't happen.
No, I know.
We'll follow the story over the coming days and weeks and get back to you when Type 40 Live returns as ever with more rants and raves. All opinions are welcome, so please take the time to like this video or dislike it if you like. It all helps. Subscribe to the channel, check you're still subscribed, and hit the cloister bell to get all our notifications as we move on, because Type 40 Live will be back next week. Cheers, Luke, for your expertise, your eye for AI, and a few good gags as well, as always.
Yeah, I didn't really think I had much of the AI one, to be honest. Apart from it's a bit. I make some really fun stuff on it, so it's quite.
Go ahead and reveal.
You're fearless, Luke. In the face.
Can we go ahead
AI?
and reveal now that Luke's entire appearance today has been an AI?
Well, Channel 4 just aired a documentary, Dan, Simon, and Sarah. I don't know if you've seen it. I think where they did "Will AI Replace My Job?" And on it,
I heard about it, but I've not seen it.
Yeah, they revealed at the end that the presenter was purely AI generated.
Oh no!
Oh really? I was kidding, Luke. That was a joke. Really?
Yeah.
I saw the show that was on. I haven't watched it. Oh
yeah.
More controversy.
It's mad. It's mad.
Very scary times ahead.
It's Well, I'm making I'm making videos of penguins and giant birds and robots.
Can you send those to each of us and put the smiles back on our faces if you can?
Gotta love penguins.
Should see the one I did of a Dalek. It was very good.
We need to see the one that you did of a Dalek.
We don't need to see it, yeah.
You can't just say that.
Yeah, you can't just say that.
Yeah.
Oh, a Dalek penguin. Penguin Dalek.
Penguin.
Sarah, as always, it's been great to have your company too. I know this has been a late one. Thank you for staying with us. You too, Simon, because it is pretty much everybody's bedtime. Pumpkin time all round. But we always have the bedtime if you have the space here at Type 40. Isn't that right, Gary?
Absolutely. It's not. I'll actually go to bed right now in sympathy, even though it's still light out.
Thank you, Gary.
See you all next time. Good night. Bye bye. Cheers.
Bye bye.
Good night, everybody. Bye.
No star.